Good evening. It is 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. I'd also like to welcome everyone who's here in our City Council chambers, as well as our listening audience at WCBU. Welcome also to our audience watching on cable channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali.
Present.
Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Sear. Here. Councilmember Gordon Young. Present. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Velpula. And Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
You have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Everyone, please join me and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk?
We're at proclamations.
We have several proclamations tonight, so I've asked council members to share the reading of those proclamations with me. The first proclamation, however, is celebrating Economic Development Week. And we're honored to have with us Mr. Chris Setti, who is the CEO of the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, and Assistant City Manager, Ms. Kimberly Richardson. She is also over economic development for the city of Peoria and HR and other responsibilities. So, okay, the proclamation reads, whereas economic developers promote economic well-being and quality of life for their communities by creating, retaining, and expanding jobs that facilitate growth, enhance wealth, and provide a stable tax base. And whereas economic developers attract and retain high-quality jobs, develop vibrant communities, and improve the quality of life in their communities, states, and regions. And whereas the creation of new opportunities for businesses and entrepreneurs is a key component to securing Peoria's economic future for generations to come. And whereas the city of Peoria is committed to fostering a business climate that will attract employers, enable the city and county to grow and remain competitive on a global scale, and generate new jobs and opportunities for our community members. And whereas the City of Peoria Office of Economic Development, the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, Bradley University Small Business Development Center, the Minority Business Development Center, the Peoria Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Greater Peoria Hispanic Chamber of Commerce are committed to providing quality resources that boost economic growth and enhance quality of life throughout the city of Peoria. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby acknowledge May 6th through May 10th as Economic Development Week in Peoria, Illinois.
I have a huge smile on my face because this is the exciting part of my job, is when I get to come up here and not have to explain a TIF or a decision that you all have to make. I have to tell you, working for the city of Peoria is the best experience I've had in my career so far, and economic development has to be one of the top reasons for that. The complexity of our economic development landscape, but also just the community around our businesses and the partnerships that the city has with our community stakeholders is something I had not experienced prior to coming here. And that's saying a lot considering where I came from previously. What I have to tell you is that over the last 2 years, the city has been able to grant over close to $2 million to small businesses. These are the mom and pop stores. These are our neighborhood businesses that are employing our youth and our young adults. These are the businesses who before did not have the ability to have the infusion of capital to expand or to modernize their technology, their storefronts, or support even just getting the pay to where they need to attract new workers. This is the greatest part about the job, the fact that we have touched those business leaders' lives, but also the community in doing so. We continue to do that through our development agreements with the developers that are coming in. As we know, we have some great news coming with the new TIPs being discussed tonight, along with the development of the most created TIP up north with the Medina Plains TIP and the expansion of Maui Gym. We have a lot of things happening. We look at the warehouse district and how that's vibrant and becoming its own neighborhood. None of that would have happened, not just without economic development. I do say our office is important, but it is a team effort in our organization. Every department touches economic development, from finance to IT to legal, public works, and public safety departments. They all have a part in our success in economic development, and I just want to thank those departments and their staff for their support. I want to give a quick shout out to my staff, a small but very mighty and energetic team. We have Debbie Van Sickle, our economic development manager, and then we have Uriah Kilgannon, who I think is the most known name in our office. And then we have our newcomer, Blake Eggleston, who's been added to our team over the last few months. It's a small team, but it's a mighty team. It's an eager team, and we look forward to continue to serve this city of Peoria and our business communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Richardson. Mr. Setti?
So, Kimberly, if you're excited to be on this side of the podium, I am just as excited to be on this side of the podium receiving a proclamation. Thank you on behalf of the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council for honoring this week. But I think Kimberly said it best, that economic development isn't just about the people who work in economic development. What you do as city council members, what your staff does to make this city run is vitally important. Immediately before here, I was driving a site selector around our community named Jay Garner and showing him not only our great industrial assets and talking about the Maui Gym expansion, but also talking about public art and talking about public safety and the development that's happening here. And it is all part of economic development. You can't just have one thing working for you. You have to have all of those things working for you. So on behalf of my own team and all of the regional partners, and you could hear it in the proclamation, so many different organizations mentioned, we all work together on your behalf and the behalf of our business community to make this a vibrant place to work, live, and play. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you. Our next proclamation recognizes Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, and it will be shared by Councilman Mike Vespa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is an annual celebration that recognizes the historical and cultural contributions of individuals and groups of Asian and Pacific Islander descent to the United States, and whereas AAPI includes cultures from the entire Asian continent and the Pacific Islands of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia, AAPI people are the fastest growing population in the United States and make up approximately 7% of the total population. And whereas in 1979, Representative Frank Horton of New York proposed Asian Pacific Heritage Week, and after the House and Senate passed the resolution, it was signed into law by President Jimmy Carter. In 1992, it was expanded to a month-long celebration to be held in May as Asian Pacific Heritage Month. In 2009, it was renamed to AAPI Heritage Month. And whereas May was identified for AAPI Heritage Month because it commemorates the immigration of the first Japanese people to the United States on May 7th, 1843, and also acknowledges Golden Spike Day on May 10th, 1869, marking the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, built with momentous contributions of Asian Pacific Americans. Now, therefore, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, does hereby recognize May as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 23rd day of April, 2024 AD.
All right, thank you. Our next proclamation recognizes Municipal Clerks Week, and it will be shared by Councilman Riggenbeck.
Madam Mayor, before I begin this, I think we're going to see the value of municipal clerks when we get to the consent agenda tonight. So, whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world as the oldest profession among public servants. And whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides a professional link between citizens, the local and governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be mindful of their neutrality, impartiality, providing equal service to all community members through transparent and accountable government practices. And whereas municipal clerks serve as informational hubs and official record keepers for the municipality, especially those related to the city council meetings. And whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their states, provinces, counties, cities, and international professional organizations. Now, therefore, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, does hereby proclaim May 5th through 11th, 2024 as Municipal Clerks Week in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 23rd day of April.
Thank you. Well, we certainly love our municipal clerks, and they are represented by our city clerk, Stephanie Tarr, and our chief deputy city clerk, Trina Bonds. Ladies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Thank you for the recognition. This is a time just to recognize municipal clerks in the state of Illinois. It's a time dedicated to recognizing the individual contributions of the clerks across the country, actually. Most importantly, however, I'd like to take the moment to recognize my staff or my team. They're incredible. They're the ones who get the work done. They're very dedicated individuals who work tirelessly day in and day out to ensure the smooth functioning of the office. And those include, of course, my Chief Deputy, Trina Bonds. She just recently received her CMC, as you all know, her Certified Municipal Clerk, and she's on her way to being registered with the state of Illinois. She also processes all the liquor licenses in the city. And then our Deputy Clerk, Courtney Coe, she makes all the magic happen with the agendas and the minutes, and as you can see with tonight's agenda, it was a lot of work, and I contributed it all to her. And then, of course, our Deputy Clerk, Amanda Hildy, she also helps with that process, and she's the backup for the minutes. She processes all these documents that you guys are approving tonight, and she makes sure that everything is organized so we can do the research that needs to be done at a later date. And then our records coordinator, Ian Monk, he's a fairly new position in the office, but he's helping organize all the documents throughout the city. That's a lot. It's a lot of documents. These guys, with their unwavering commitment and attention to detail and work ethic, are a big part of our success. And tonight's meeting is a witness of that, as you can see. With the office compiling the agenda, the recording of the minutes, and history taking place by you, Madam Mayor, and by the rest of the City Council. In this chamber, this history dates back to the mid-1840s, spanning approximately 180 years of our city's journey. You guys are part of that process. That's impressive, and we're documenting that. It is a responsibility we do not take lightly. Your recognition of Municipal Clerks Week underscores the importance of our role in upholding the integrity of our local government and serving our community with dedication and integrity. So on behalf of myself, my team, and municipal clerks everywhere, thank you for your support, appreciation, and acknowledgement. Thank you.
Recognition.
You're very welcome. And just so everybody knows, this is our packet for tonight. And keeping in mind that we cut down a lot of trees to make all these packets, we also are going to recognize Arbor Day. Councilmember Denise Jackson is going to recognize Arbor Day.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the world, and trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling cost, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildfire. And whereas trees are a renewable source, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and wherever trees are planted, they are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby designate April 26 as Arbor Day in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 23rd day of April, 2024.
Receiving the proclamation will be Mr. Cy Maroon. He's our Superintendent of Operations of Public Works. Cy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. And on behalf of the community, I want to thank you as well, because this is an important piece of becoming Tree City USA. So if I can explain that a little bit, Arbor Day is truly a great day. It recognizes what we do in the communities, or in the communities, I should say, all communities. Planting trees is a big thing. We are doing this on an annual basis, but Arbor Day proclamation is not just because. It's one of the criteria that we need to meet to become a Tree City USA designee. And we are that, and we have been that for 31 years now, which says a lot about our community and for those stakeholders that are really interested in what we're doing with trees and how we're doing going forward, what we're doing. There's a lot of people, there's people in this room that care about what we do in the tree world. So this is a big piece. The second thing I wanted to mention was on Friday, which is Arbor Day, we will be planting a tree in commemoration of Arbor Day. South-West Kiwanis donate a tree every year, which we'll be doing on the riverfront by the Gateway Building. We're putting a tree in at Sinclair Grove after that planting, so we're actually doing 3 that day, and we're doing a tree at the Central Firehouse on the Monroe Street side. So we're taking some serious action on Arbor Day. Following up Arbor Day, we have a mulch giveaway, which is all a part of our recycled trees. So we are truly recycling what comes down. And so it all comes together at this time of the year. It leads us into the summer, where we intend on planting somewhere between 100 and 200 trees this year. So we're excited about that. We're excited about the fact that we come here every year and get to accept this proclamation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Cy. Our next proclamation recognizes the 35th anniversary of Science Treasure Hunt, and we have Renee Kerrigan, the Curator of Science and Planetarium Director of the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Councilmember Charles Greb is going to share the proclamation.
Thank you. Whereas the knowledge of science is an important aspect of a well-rounded education for every child in our community, and whereas American students lag behind those of almost every other developed country in comprehension of basic scientific principles, and whereas the Science Treasure Hunt for Children is celebrating its 35th anniversary this summer, beginning Monday, April 15, and whereas this summer-long program was initiated at Lakeview Museum in 1989 and presented in recent years by the Peoria Academy of Science, it's now administered by the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and whereas this popular event has served thousands of children in central Illinois, inspiring them, turning them on to science to become excited about both science and technology by visiting various science sites. Now, therefore, the Mayor of the City of Peoria, Rita Lee, does hereby acknowledge the 35th anniversary of the Science Treasure Hunt on today's date.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ali, and thank you, City Council. The Peoria Riverfront Museum is committed to inspiring the people of Central Illinois. That's our mission, be it about science, history, art, or achievement. We hope that the folks who visit the museum will be inspired to continue learning after their visit about anything they may have encountered at our museum. We also hope to be a gathering place for the community of Central Illinois and to help continue to make Peoria a better place for the people of our community. We acknowledge and are grateful for the support of Mike Rucker, who I am accepting this proclamation on the behalf of tonight. Mike Rucker is a community volunteer, a champion for science, and a supporter of the Peoria Riverfront Museum and many other community organizations, and he has been the champion for the Science Treasure Hunt for these past 35 years. So we're very grateful for him and all he does for the community. And this program is a free program that allows young people and their families to visit places where science is being done in our community. And there's a lot of great places where science is being done to help inspire that learning. And then they get to celebrate with a party at the museum at the end of the summer if they've visited all their science sites. So thank you for all you do for our community and for supporting the efforts of inspiring young people to continue learning about science.
Thank you. Our next proclamation recognizes Child Abuse Prevention Month. We have Stephanie Johnson, the Executive Director, Pediatric Resource Center, and Jason Killian, Community Board President. Welcome. And Council Member Dr. Bernice Gordon-Young will share the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas child abuse is a complex community problem and finding solutions depend on involvement among people throughout the community, and whereas the effects of child abuse are felt by whole communities and need to be addressed by the entire community, and whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created amongst the courts, social service agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement agencies, businesses, communities, and private community members, and whereas the Pediatric Resource Center, a prevention and medical services program offering positive alternatives to help break the cycle of abuse, is sponsoring a variety of activities in April to heighten awareness of the need to support families. Now, therefore, Rita Ali, the Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Month. In Peoria, Illinois, dated this 23rd day of April, 2024 AD.
Thank you, Mayor Ali, and thank you, the council. We appreciate this opportunity to shine a light on, a very concerning problem within our community and throughout the nation, the world, really. The Pediatric Resource Center is a medical program through the University of Illinois College of Medicine. We have the unfortunate job of dealing with cases when child abuse prevention is not possible or didn't happen. And so our services are actually in increased demand this year, more than any other year. We've been around 31 years almost. And we will set a record in seeing more children than we ever have. And so we encourage everyone within the council and throughout the region to be aware that child abuse happens. If you see something, say something. If you're not sure, where to turn, you are more than welcome to give the Pediatric Resource Center a call, and we will guide you through that. We would love to see a reduction in child abuse throughout the region. In fact, we've served 44 counties so far this year. And so it gives us an opportunity, this opportunity, and Child Abuse Prevention Month allows us to communicate support to families equals prevention of child abuse. So to all of our partners, we partner with many organizations throughout the region in order to provide treatment for children who may have been abused or neglected and evaluation. But this Child Abuse Prevention Month really highlights the possibility that prevention can happen, and we encourage folks to look towards not just Child Abuse Prevention Month in April, but really looking at prevention throughout the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for this opportunity. So Jason Killian, I'm the president of the community board of the Pediatric Resource Center. I just want to take a minute to thank Stephanie and the rest of the team at the Pediatric Resource Center. They have a very difficult job that they do, and they do it very, very well. We're very lucky to have a group like that here in Peoria and Central Illinois providing the services that they have to do and advocating for children. I think this is a very important proclamation here today to bring awareness. That's part of what we as the community board for the PRC do, is to help bring awareness to the fact that this does happen. It doesn't just happen in certain segments of the population. It happens everywhere, right? You'll see the impact of child abuse everywhere. And so it's our job as the community board to help raise awareness, help raise funds through events. We just did a 5K this past weekend. It was very successful, very cold, but very successful, raising money. Stephanie and I are wearing blue. Blue is the color that we use to represent Child Abuse Prevention Month. You'll also see we partnered with a number of businesses in the area to raise awareness through placing pinwheel pots. Pinwheels symbolize childhood, and we place pinwheel pots around along with some other information that folks can have. So very much appreciate you all taking this seriously, passing this proclamation. I also want to thank our community board as well for all the efforts that they do every day, every week to help support the PRC. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Killoran. Thank you. Our final proclamation tonight recognizes the Richwoods High School boys basketball team. Receiving the proclamation will be Mr. Jeffrey Cruzen, the athletic director, and William Smith, the head coach. And sharing the proclamation will be Richwoods graduate, Councilman Andre Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the alley-oop to slam dunk this proclamation. You see what I did there? But if I can go off script real fast, I just want to say that this is a full circle moment for myself as a Richwoods alumni, class of 2007, to have the privilege to represent the 4th District where Richwoods is housed, and to then read a proclamation on the success of your season and what you all did for our community. Regardless if you went to Central, Manual, Notre Dame, everybody rallied around you all. And so I want to give you all your flowers while you all can smell them, because you all definitely deserve it. So now I want to go ahead and get into our proclamation. Whereas tonight we are honoring the Richwoods High School boys varsity basketball team on their successful season, resulting in their historic third place Class 3A win. And whereas with 30 wins and just 5 losses, the Richwoods High School boys varsity team tied a school record for the number of wins in school history. And whereas the team conquered not only the Metamora High School boys basketball team, the reigning state champions that ranked number 2 in the Class 3A in the sectional finals, but also achieved victory over Thornton High School boys basketball team, the number 1 ranked team in the 3A Super Sectionals final. And whereas the student athletes demonstrated hard work, commitment, dedication, determination, and teamwork throughout the season on and off the court. 2 outstanding players were acknowledged for their hard work by the Peoria Journal-Star. Lathan Somerville was named Player of the Year, and Jarrett Jackson was named First Team Player. And whereas head coach William Smith and his coaching staff have been instrumental in leading the Knights boys basketball team in these achievements. And now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby and acknowledge the success of the Richwoods High School varsity boys basketball team in Peoria, Illinois, dated this day, 23rd day of April, 2024 AD.
Woo.
First and foremost, I want to thank Mayor Ali for having us and the Peoria City Council for having us here. This is an amazing thing. Councilmember Allen said it all. He said it best for us. I think you stole my speech. Couple things he didn't mention before I mention these guys. We beat 7 of the top 10 teams in the state this year. Us being one of them. We didn't beat ourselves, of course. But we beat 7 of the 10. Everybody we played that was state ranked, we beat them except for the one team that won state. That's a big accomplishment to these guys, where we came from and where we started at. I'm just going to introduce the players first, and then I'll get to the coaching staff. To my left here, we got Jalen McFadden, a senior. Dedicated 4 years at Richwoods, a great guy, great young man going on to college next year. Jalen McFadden. Next to him is Kylan Ross, another dedicated player. He's with us for 4 years. These guys came through COVID, so they missed the season. They were outside for half a season. I didn't know if we were going to have a season, then we had one. It was only like 11 games that year, but they were with us for 4. As we said, Jarrett Jackson, another 4-year member, started off. He never saw a sophomore jersey. He's been dressing varsity since he was a sophomore, so he's been our guy for 3 years, Jarrett Jackson. I'm going to step to the side. The only junior that's here with us is Marlon. He got to carry the torch next year, Marlon Herron. He's ready for the task. He's getting his grades together now, and he's getting ready to play and make a tremendous season next year. Quan Little is another state, IBC All-State guy. Came to us this year, great player, hard work. He's going to college. He just made his commitment to SWIC last week, so he'll be going on to play junior college ball next year. Then we got next to him is Janelle Etherly, who's going on also to play football next year. And then we got the big fella, Lathan Somerville. We already know his accolades. He just got named to the News Gazette's first team All-State today. So that's another big accomplishment. Can't see everybody. And then down on the end is another 4-year guy, Nick Louderman, who's been with us for 4 years. Tremendous athlete, tremendous young man. And the biggest thing about these guys that I want to say, they're all going somewhere next year for their grades, and because they were all student athletes, and they really embodied the student part first. And they put all the hard work and dedication into their craft in the off time, and we saw the fruition this year on the court. Next to me, I got a couple of my staff members. Coach Taylor was our sophomore coach. He's been with me for, is it 10 years now? 9 years? Long time. Been with me for a long time. So that's Coach Taylor. Next to him is Coach West, another great guy, another great mentor for our team. And then we're going to share this together. My assistant coach, Coach Richards. Myself, Coach Richards, and Coach Taylor, we're all Richwoods guys. Me and Coach Richards actually were teammates in high school together. When he came in, I was a senior, he was a freshman, he was a point guard, I was an off guard, so we've been teaming for a long time. And to see that all come together again and take a team somewhere is a tremendous honor to be leading Richwoods to where we got them to. we can't say that enough. We had fun every day at work, and every day is a memorable day, and this is another big one for us. I definitely want to say I appreciate you. Appreciate everybody in the community for their support. I think this team really embodied Peoria with their humbleness, their toughness, their togetherness, their brotherhood, and their resilience. We tried to put the city on our back when we were downstate and making sure everybody was proud of what we did and showed that with great character. And hopefully we did that. So thank you for having us.
Coach Smith, you and your team have made Peoria very, very proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, you ready, Madam Clerk?
Yes, I am. We'll start with the approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the City Council meeting held on March 26, 2024, and the minutes of the annual Town Board meeting held on April 9th, 2024, as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at the consent agenda. 24-98 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with recommendation from the Community Development Block Grant Public Services Commission to approve the 2025 CDBG Public Service Application. 24-99 is a communication with a request to approve an additional $200,000 for the 2024 Utility Assistance Program. 24-100 is a communication with request to accept a grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the fiscal year 2023 Economic Development Initiative Community Project Funding Grant in the amount of $2 million for sidewalks in 61605. 24-101 is a communication from the City Manager, Fire Chief, and Finance Director with a request to approve the proposal from Pierce Manufacturing through McQueen Equipment for the purchase of 2 fire apparatus. 24-102 is a communication with a request to approve a bid and 2-year agreement with Ray O'Hearn for the supply of ammunition in an amount not to exceed $45,000 annually. 24-103 is a communication with request to approve an agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to purchase a TASER 7 and body-worn Camera 4 bundle package funded by a Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity grant. 24-104 is a communication with a request to amend an agreement with the Peoria Citizens Committee for Economic Opportunity for $150,000 in South Village TIF funds for the rehabilitation of owner-occupied homes in the South Village TIF area. 24-105 is a communication with a request to approve a 1-year contract for the 2024 Alley Light and Porch Light program to Fleming Electric for up to $500,000. 24-106 is a communication with request for the following. A, adopt an ordinance approving an amendment to the Peoria Urban Enterprise Zone, and B, approve the 9th Amendment to the Peoria Urban Enterprise Zone Intergovernmental Agreement. 24-107 is a communication with request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R3 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 2127 North Ardell Place. 24-108 is a communication with request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving the rezoning of certain property from a Class R6 multifamily residential district to a Class C1 general commercial district for the property located at 3523 West Willanoles Road. 24-109 is a communication with request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use with waivers in a Class CG General Commercial District for the expansion of a non-conforming social service institution, commonly referred to as a Salvation Army, for the existing Veterans Space Center, Child Daycare Center, food pantry, offices, and shelters for the homeless in order to construct a new building and make parking lot alterations to replace an existing shelter for the homeless for the property located at 400, 412, and 416 Northeast Jefferson Avenue, and 401, 403, 405, 407, 409, 411, 413, 415, 417, and 419 Northeast Adams Street. 24-110 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve an ordinance amending the existing official development plan for OSF Franciscan Prairie Point as amended to allow for the installation of a beacon of light for the property located at 8630 North State Route 91, including the following properties located at 9600 North Franciscan Drive, 9014 North Woodsage Road, 8921 North Woodsage Road, 8940 North Woodsage Road, and 8600 North State Route 91, all in Peoria, Illinois. 24-111 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for Zion Coffee Bar, LLC, doing business as Zion Coffee at 803 Southwest Adams Street, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 24-112 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Downtown Advisory Commission with a request to concur of Alicia Nicole and Joshua Mauback. 24-113 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Housing Commission with a request to concur of Quentin Campbell. 24-114 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Mayor's Advisory Committee for Citizens with Disabilities with a request to concur of Susmita Sa. 24-115 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Peoria Housing Authority with a request to concur of Larry Ivory. And 24-116 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Transportation Commission with a request concur of James Cotting. And that concludes our consent agenda.
That was a lot. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item number 24-100.
Thank you. Any other items? May I have a motion to approve the rest of the items moved by Councilman Sears, seconded by Councilmember Allen? Any questions or comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
24-100 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to accept a grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the fiscal year 2023 Economic Development Initiative Community Project Funding Grant in the amount of $2 million for sidewalks in 61605.
Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to defer this item just to give the staff some additional time to finish it and finalize the plans.
How much time is needed, Manager?
1 month? 1 month, Madam
1
Mayor.
month? Okay. All right, can I get a second? Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at first readings. 24-117 is a communication from the City Manager and Assistant City Manager with a request for the following. A, receive and file the first reading of an ordinance to approve the redevelopment plan and project for the proposed distillery tax increment financing district. B, receive and file the first reading of an ordinance to designate the redevelopment project area for the proposed distillery tax increment financing district. And C, receive and file the first reading of an ordinance to approve a tax increment allocation financing for the proposed distillery tax increment financing district. And we'll need separate motions on each, please.
Hey, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the proposed distillery TIF that we're looking at. This is the area in between the Warehouse District TIF and the Eagle View and South Village TIF that it runs along Southwest Washington Street. and covers all of the industrial property in that area that is not currently within a TIF district in the south side. So what you have in front of you this evening, we have three ordinances that are on first reading. Ordinance number A is or ordinance letter A is the redevelopment plan for the proposed TIF district. B would be the designated redeveloped project area, so that defines the geographic area that we're looking at. And then item C is the ordinance that creates the tax increment financing district. So the idea would be that we would answer any of your questions that you have this evening and then bring that back for final action on the 15th, or the 14th, excuse me, of May. So we've received a lot of comments from the public and some concerned citizens about the plan. And before I get into that, I want to just kind of identify something for everyone. As we looked within the redevelopment plan, and this is in item A, on page 50 of the 178, or on page 24 of the TIF redevelopment plan, we have a summary of how this area qualifies. There's 109 parcels. 72 of the parcels are improved, but they also qualify under the TIF Act for being part of that TIF. 73.6% qualify as part of meeting the threshold of qualifying for TIF. There are 37 vacant parcels, and 100% of those qualify. So as we look at the standard of meeting, and there's about 11 separate statutory criteria, this meets the definition of why we would want to create the TIF. As we met with some of the concerned citizens, and they participated from the very beginning when we had our joint review board meeting, we asked for some suggestions on some comments from them that we could add and incorporate into the TIF plan. And we did that in a number of different parts of this plan. The first was on page 2, where we added an additional bullet point that references encouraging environmental remediation of existing properties and encouraging environmentally responsible industrial development. Later on page 15 in the plan, we incorporated language that really talked about the history of this area and the history of this industrial area and the importance of talking about what the federal government calls environmental justice areas. We actually put the definition of environmental justice into the documentation, so that's included as part of the plan as well. Then on page 17, under the goals and objectives, we included in working with the concerned citizens, we included language that said and this is the very first goal and objective, to reduce the U.S. EPA Environmental Justice Index rating by making improvements in both environmental indices and socioeconomic indicators, thus increasing the capacity of those in and around the TIF area to thrive and succeed. We then, on page 40 in the plan, when we talk about some of the other TIF objectives, we included language here, and this is at the bottom of page 40 in the document, where number 9 states that the city will consider incentives for redevelopment projects that reduce air or water pollutants or environmental hazards to the area or increase the amount of green space. And then number 10 talks about how, and this directly points to the transportation of carbon dioxide, and I want to talk about one other point with this in just a minute, that the city will not provide assistance for any project costs that involve transportation of CO2 unless the project is fully compliant with the public health and safety regulations resulting from the May 26, 2022 federal rulemaking adopted by the U.S. Department of Transportation, Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, and provides additional protections as determined by the Peoria City Council. So we included that language in as well, providing and reserving the right for the council to weigh in on additional requirements that they have. And then lastly, on page 42, we included language with regards to evaluating the impact of proposed projects and how they affect environmental justice areas, and looking at a lens that we could look at projects through that in order to include that language that was in that document. So, I think that the concerned citizens raised some additional points to us. We felt as city staff that the language that we were putting in was appropriate for the language in the TIF plan. Again, this is a financial document that directs how we're going to use our financing tool in a way that's appropriate with the TIF Act. If there are suggestions, and the concerned citizens raised some suggestions that may be more appropriate for us to look at as part of our zoning ordinance and our land development code, that references industrial property, that talks about carbon dioxide and transportation and sequestration. So that may be more appropriate for us to, and I think staff would be happy to, if directed by council, to look at working within the construct of our Planning and Zoning Commission to take text amendments forward to make those changes. But we felt it wasn't appropriate for this plan. Further, the concerned citizens specifically pointed out the RJE committee and asking to have them have a larger role in the development of some of these elements in the TIF plan. And we just felt that, again, while we have the RJE committee in existence today, this plan is for 23 years. We may not have the RJE committee for 23 years as part of this TIF document, so we didn't feel it was appropriate to include that language as well. So those are the changes within the plan. One other point about TIF incentives and carbon CO2 pipelines and transportation. I clarified today with the township assessor and the supervisor of assessments that pipelines are not taxable. So when a pipeline goes in, and there's actually a natural gas pipeline that's going in right now, if you drive north on Knoxville and you cross Route 6, they're starting to close the street down to put it in. If you're on University Street and you go just east of Willow Knolls Road, there's equipment for a natural gas pipeline that Ameren is putting in right now. But once the pipeline is in the ground, it's not considered property that gets assessed and taxed. So therefore, I don't think that the pipeline specifically would generate any TIF increment that would cause anything for that to be utilized in that way. Now, having said that, a building that is used for the sequestration of carbon may increase the value of the property on a parcel, and that may be taxable, and that may increase the value of that. So those are elements that I just wanted to clarify that after discussions with the township assessor and supervisor assessments, that's what we heard back. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm sure you have some. Thank you, Mr. Manager. I want to thank the concerned citizens for weighing in with some recommended language. And really, I consider it shared governance when the public plays a role in giving their opinion and wanting to modify the language of a policy or some document that they feel is important to the safety of the community. And I think the intent there is protecting this part of our community. I know that that's the case. So I thank you, Mr. Manager, and your team for working with the concerned citizens, massaging some of the language, coming to some level of agreement, but then having some rationale for saying this is not appropriate in this document, but it may be appropriate in land use planning and zoning. And I would recommend that we do take consideration of that language that's not included in here to our planning and zoning development. So those are my thoughts. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would echo your sentiment, Madam Mayor. As I have had conversations with both the city manager and the Sierra Club and Southside Community United for Change, Joyce Heron and others, I appreciate your due diligence, your concerns, and as the First District Council member, as I have stated, that I feel that it is incumbent on that individual's role, not here, now, as well as in the future, to make sure that any additional suggestions and concerns that are raised with regards to the potential for a pipeline or sequestration of a CO2 pipeline be brought to our attention, because as the mayor has said, the safety of our community and our city is first and foremost in all matters. So having said that, I just would like to thank you for your input and your participation, And we continue to look forward to work with you as we move forward down this path in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing no more comments or questions, may I get a motion to receive and file? Moved by Councilmember Jackson, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Any other comments or questions? This is on item A. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Jackson?
Madam Mayor, I would, is this item B?
Yes.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that item B be accepted and moved as designated.
This is a receive and file, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
Item C, I make a motion that we receive and file the first reading of item C, as so mentioned.
Seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
24-118 is a communication from the city manager and assistant city manager with a request for the following. A, receive and file the first reading of an ordinance to approve the redevelopment plan and project for the proposed Galena Road Industrial Park Tax Increment Financing District. B, receive and file the first reading of an ordinance to designate the redevelopment project area for the proposed Galena Road Industrial Park Tax Increment Financing District. And C, receive and file the first reading of an ordinance to approve a tax increment allocation financing for the proposed Galena Road Industrial Park Tax Increment Financing District. And we need separate votes on each, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This proposed TIF district is not in an environmentally or an environmental justice area, but this is along Galena Road in District 5. This area is generally located adjacent to North Galena Road from Gardner Lane on the south up to Cook Drive on the north. And many of these properties, almost all of the properties, are zoned industrial. There are some properties that are zoned residential that would be, with part of the plan, eventually converted to industrial. On page 39 of the documentation, which is actually page 759 of the 1,240-page agenda, we talk about how these properties qualify. There are 70 improved and vacant parcels in this area. They were surveyed, and 95.7% qualify under the TIF Act. In addition, of the 35 vacant parcels, 91% qualify under the TIF Act. So, as we look at this, I think what staff is looking to do here, there's a large parcel that the water company has that we've been in discussions with them about acquiring to look at putting a business park in this location. It would certainly be a green business park is what we would look at. We'd want to be a good neighbor with Park District property on both sides that we would be able to coordinate with that. We did have some input from the Park District, some of which their concern is obviously as the business park gets built out, would there be appropriate buffers? It's not included in the plan, but it would be part of the plan of the site planning process that we would sit down and work with our neighbors of the Park District and work to try and coordinate that. Because in the design that we've kind of looked at for the proposed business park, we would certainly want to see if there's opportunities to tie into the trail network that's there at Forest Park. So in this instance, we do have in North Peoria here along Galena Road, we have industrial properties, and so this affords us the opportunity to encourage redevelopment in that area as well. If the TIF is established, if the council on the 14th decides to go forward with this, I think the city and the county would probably look to pursue an Economic Development Administration grant to get some of the infrastructure costs to offset the investment that we would need to make. So I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point in time.
The Development Administration grant, is that like through the EDA?
It's the U.S. EDA. They have funds available for business parks if they are publicly owned.
Okay, great. Questions for the manager? Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very excited about this project. Great potential for the next 23 years, especially the next 10. I want to give kudos to my colleague, Councilman Riggenbach, that these properties were a while ago. They were in a 3rd district, so I know you did a little bit of work on that. So I want to acknowledge your work since you gave me a call this afternoon about it. So, Madam Mayor, I move to receive and file item 24-118A.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to receive and file number 24-118B.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Unanimously. Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to receive and file item 24-118, letter C.
Seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Those are 2 big deals. Madam Clerk?
We are at regular business. 24-119 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to approve the 2024 Neighborhood Mini Grant applications in the amount of $220,100.
Okay. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to, if I could, turn the floor over to our Community Development Director to talk about this item.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Manager. The item in front of you, as part of the American Rescue Plan money, we allocated about $100,000 for neighborhood mini grant programs back in 2022. In 2022, we had 17 grant applications. In 2023, we had asked for an increase because we had 31 applications. And this year, I'm very happy to report that we had 49 neighborhood associations or condo associations or community groups throughout Peoria apply for grants. So with that, we'd request to increase the budget from $100,000 to $220,000 because all the neighborhood associations submitted fantastic projects like community gardens, new lighting, new cameras, new signage, just really things that boost the neighborhoods. And to have 49 organizations throughout all the council districts, I think, is a testament to engagement in Peoria and the hard work of our staff who run these programs. So with that, I'd ask for you to approve.
This is a great program. Councilmember Graham?
Yes, it is a great program, and as I make my way through District 2, the neighborhood leaders are ecstatic about this program, and I think they're working very hard, I know they are, to spend this money very wisely. And I appreciate this program. It's funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, and I see nothing but good things ahead as it relates to this type of programming.
You want to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Discussion, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I definitely would like to echo the same sentiments as Councilman Greb. You know, this is a great program that re-energizes our neighborhood associations, our homeowner associations, our condo associations. Some that may have became a little stagnant after COVID due to the pandemic and just social distancing. And so this is an opportunity to re-engage the neighbors on a common goal to enhance the neighborhood that they reside in. So I appreciate the work that you do and Kaylee and Lumia and the whole team in community development. I mean, we truly appreciate it. I had a good time signing these, and I look forward to always say, staff, you all make us look good. And when they get these notifications, we gonna look great. So I appreciate that. Just for the listening audience, though, because you are asking for a budget increase, and the remaining, you're trying to utilize the remaining funds from the McKinley and Harrison demolition. Can you just give the listening public some context of why there were remaining funds and why are you reallocating those now to award more grants?
Yeah, so when council approved the ARPA funds 3 years ago, they put it in different pools: economic development, public works projects, neighborhood revitalization projects, and violence prevention, and then replenishing lost tax revenue. So a certain dollar amount was set aside specifically for neighborhood revitalization projects, and we have some flexibility within there to move things around. Luckily for us, we budgeted $2 million for the Harrison and McKinley demolitions, and then very graciously got a grant from Congressman Bustos at the time for $1 million for Harrison. So it offset the cost of the demolition. So we had $3 million. We ended up coming in at about $2.1 million. We reprogrammed some of that money earlier for Phoenix Community Development Services project down in the North Valley, and then there's a balance still in there. So that's also earlier this evening you approved the utility assistance program that allows us to about double the households that we can help with that. And so as long as we keep it within the neighborhood revitalization pool of funds, we're in good shape kind of in the Treasury standards.
No, that's great to hear. Thank you for your innovation and continuing to serve our neighborhoods with these funds. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to echo the sentiment of Councilmember Allen. 49 groups is a large number of groups. That sounds like the largest we've had ever, and I'm really excited. It says to me that folks are really, really busy and looking for ways to improve their communities. So I'm really excited, and I'm grateful that you all were able to find the money to make sure that we could finance all of those projects, because I didn't know how we would do it, but thank you for your innovation. And Madam Mayor, I'm going to abstain from voting because I'm a member of SCUC, so
Okay.
I'll just abstain from voting. But thank you, Director Doolin, for your hard work.
Okay. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move for approval.
I think we've already done that. Councilmember Graham, and it was seconded somewhere over here.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember Riggenbach
That's all right.
seconded.
Okay. Okay, if no more comments, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Jackson, you can push there you go. Okay, motion passes with one extension, and that's Jackson. Madam Clerk?
24-120 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve the sole source purchase of pavement marking material, modified urethane paint, from Colorado Paint Company to LLC in the amount of $54,000. And this item requires a 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6 votes.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, this is a sole source. That's the reason why it wasn't on consent. Deputy Director Cy Maroon is here. I can let him explain why this is a sole source.
Okay, thank you for having us again tonight to get this piece of business done so we can get to work on the streets. The purpose for us going out on sole source on this is because the type of equipment that we have, the paint truck that we use for our work, utilizes this modified urethane. So the truck that we had before this one, the big, it was a big unit, used to use drawing a blank now. Anyway, it was, well, I'm still drawing the blank. Anyway, it'll come to me. But anyway, so the purpose of this is because this paint fits our truck, the truck that we have currently that we use. So we do go out sole source for that reason, just simply because it matches what we have. It's a quality type of material. It's simply just because it matches our equipment and it performs the way we would look for it to perform on the streets.
Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve.
Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Any questions for Director Maroon? Cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Director. Madam Clerk?
24-121 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of of Emergency Communications Center with a request to approve the sole source 3-year contract with Supreme Radio Communications, Inc. in the yearly amount of $122,317.80. And this item requires a 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6 votes.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is, again, another sole source item. I'm going to turn it over to our Emergency Communications Director, Brandon Blaney, who will explain why and also the relationship that we've had with Supreme Radio over the years.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Supreme Radio has been our contractor provider for electronic and radio services since the city closed its electronic and radio shop in December of 2011. We have a great relationship with them, and they do great work for us. And this is just a continuation of the current agreement that we have with Supreme.
Questions? Can I get a motion? Moved by Councilmember Greb, seconded by Councilmember Riggenbach. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Oh, sorry. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question here. What will be the length of the contract? I see that the county has they're in year 6 of 20. What will be our contract?
So the contract that we have that's in year 6 of 20 is with Motorola, who's the radio system that we're on. This is just a 3-year contract with Supreme to provide those services. Supreme is the regional contracted provider for Motorola services for this area.
So it's $122,000 per year for 3 years.
That's correct, and that's a continuation of the same amount for the previous 3-year contract.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Director. Madam Clerk?
24-122 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief of Police with a request for the following. A, receive and file a presentation regarding FUSUS real-time software, and B, approve an agreement with Axon Enterprise, Inc. to purchase FUSUS real-time intelligence software with organized retail crime grant funds and DCEO grant funds in the amount of $120,000. And we'll need separate motions on each, please.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn the floor over to our police chief, who will introduce our guest this evening. That's going to give us a short presentation on the software.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager. I'll make it quick. I'll present Jack Howard for the Axon, who will present Fuses powered by Axon, and then we'll take some questions.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, City Council. Thank you very much. I'll be mindful of your time and go through this really quick. Make sure I have time to answer any questions. So, just a quick overview. This is a continuation with the Axon initiative that the Peoria Police Department began. The goal is, as you can see, this is a community-based effort to bring, with permission, direct access to any camera feeds that are out there in the community right now. Right now, the platform is a quick and efficient method to get the information in the hands of the officers that are responding to these calls for service on a daily basis. We also have the ability to pull in any GS data that's out there, so we're going to be working very closely with your Public Works team and a couple of other agencies to bring in those. We also have the ability to bring in multiple disparate floor plans. So some have architect plans, some just have the fire exits, so we want to bring those in. We also have the ability to bring in disparate, whatever LPR data you have, gunshot, shot detection systems, and then any other data that's out there. But the most important thing, the last line on that, is your current Axon assets, your body cameras, your fleet assets, possibly any drone assets you might be bringing in. All of those are going to feed into one platform. Our goal is to bring this onto one platform, single sign-on, one login, one password for your officers to respond to these calls. So that's the data. One of the more important things with the Axon Real-Time Intelligence Center is our community initiative. We are going to develop a website specifically for the city of Peoria to connect the residents that don't want to share their cameras but want to let the police department, the city, know that they may have like a camera system such as Ring, Arlo, Nest that is not shareable live, but lets the officers know if there is an event on their street. So it speeds up the investigation and let the officers know. We have several initiatives going on in Illinois, and one of which is right down the street in Springfield. Sync Springfield is syncspringfield.com is a website we developed, just like we developed for Connect Atlanta and several other cities around there. So again, just trying to speed up the investigations, put the information in the hands of your officers, respond to those calls for service. As I mentioned, I kind of told you about a couple different departments. This is just a slide. Right now we're the most widely used platform in the nation today. We have a lot of major cities such as Atlanta, Orlando, Cleveland. We just launched an initiative in our nation's capital. Washington, D.C. just got up on the platform about 2 weeks ago. But more importantly, we have a mutual aid functionality where, with permission and based on level-based settings and following policy and procedure, you have the ability to share with other agencies. And one of our biggest initiatives we have right now is with the Illinois State Police. So there's a lot of Illinois State Police camera assets, whether it's at the rest areas, tollways, highways, DOT cameras. We're going to speed up that process to, again, kind of create a more smart city. We have a lot of smart city initiatives, one of which we just launched in Aurora, Illinois. Very, very cognizant of trying to plan for today's technologies and future technologies. Finally, just kind of wrapping up, again, what we're trying to do is improve the efficiency of your officers' response to calls for service. We want to put the information in the hands of first responders. We want to give the officers and the 911 dispatchers and others the ability to validate those calls. I'll steal a line from a chief down in Cobb County, Georgia. Chief Van Heusen talks about precision policing. We want to make sure we're stopping the right person, the right car, the right whatever, and avoid any unnecessary traffic stops based on erroneous information that might come on 911. And how do we do that? We bring in the community, we collaborate with the community, and utilize the existing infrastructure that's already out there in the city of Peoria. So just wrapping up, the camera owners always retain control over this system. Again, it's a policy-based, permission-based platform. It's completely voluntary. It's going to, again, reduce those unnecessary contacts that if a 911 or erroneous 911 call comes in, that the officers, the 911 dispatchers can validate that information. And again, just it's truly a force multiplier to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of your officers on the street right now. And that last slide, I'll just, just a number of different initiatives we have going on in the city. The chief mentioned about the grant initiative. The Illinois Attorney General has done a great job at providing police departments such as yourself with funds on this organized retail crime, because that's a big challenge with the retailers out there that are finding significant challenges with organized crews going in with shoplifting. So that's the funding mechanism, but we like to bring this initiative to our school partners, the businesses, houses of worship and that. So with that, that's all I have right now, and more than happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Howard. Can you talk briefly about the integration with existing technologies, and would you be the integrator of those technologies, or how does that work?
Yeah, so been meeting with your police department team probably just a little over 2 years now, talking about all the different evolving technologies out there, whether it's cameras, whether it's body cameras, even a lot of your public works vehicles have automated vehicle locating services. The takeaway is that the Axon and Fusus initiative is bringing in all. We're, for lack of a better word, Switzerland. We are working with our partners across the board, some of which you would consider competitors, but our motto is Switzerland. Let's bring in those data sets and share those resources. So as far as vendors and existing resources, our proposal is whatever's out there, our goal is to bring those in, and we're trying to bring it into one common operating platform, one login, one password. So now the officers, the watch commanders, the 911 operators don't have 8, 9, 10 tabs open at the top of their computer.
That's great. Thank you. Questions? Councilmember Gordon Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was almost a little speechless because I got to tell you, having worked as a 911 dispatcher for almost 20 years, this is a game changer. It really is, and the level of information that can be provided and the efficiency in just getting that information out there and accuracy and all those things like that matters when we're talking about the enhancing and improving public safety. I do have a question regarding, we always see like the gas station has a video system, but it's foggy or it's really hard to read. How would this play into those type of scenarios?
It's a great question. So the short answer is, on Axon, we don't make cameras. We just work with whatever is out there. Now, we will validate and we will talk to gas station, corner convenience stores. If they don't have that good of a system, we may recommend maybe upgrading. And there's so many camera systems out there, whether it's Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart, Menards. You can buy cameras everywhere. Those are the small cameras, more reasonable. But we bridge those camera systems, again, permission-based, based on what the owner wants to share. You could have a scenario, and again, thanks for mentioning the 911 partnership. Since we're also integrated with the 911 portion, we have conditional sharing where maybe that shop owner only wants to share the parking lot cameras, but restrict the interiors to maybe an incident based only. But as far as increasing the quality, our engineers will do the best they can. That does come up quite a bit, but our goal is we don't want to be pushing one camera manufacturer or another. We want to stay Switzerland, but we will give advice if they need to possibly upgrade their systems.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Graham?
Chief, how many unmanned aerial devices do we currently have to serve the people of Peoria?
There's 2, but we'll be doing a presentation next on that.
Oh, it's coming up?
Coming up right after this.
Okay. This is going to enhance the number we have, and I presume we have qualified people to operate these drones over all of our shifts.
Not this one. The next presentation that we do on the agenda will be the money for the drone and the drone program. But the drones can be incorporated into fuses. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the presentation today. So if I'm just understanding this correctly, a community, partner or organization or business, they will come to the police, or how does the engagement or the education work to get them to buy in and to essentially sign up for this software or this platform, and they get an app and then they just kind of like upload the footage? Is that how it essentially works?
Well, I'll jump in very quickly. We want to start with our businesses and our retail establishments, right? This is we're seeing a lot of organized retail theft, so we're starting there. But I'll let Jack talk about the cores that we can provide, and we're looking at through our grants to be able to provide that person, especially if we're talking about a community member, maybe not necessarily a business, maybe a smaller business, but our community members. So Jack, I'll let you hit on that.
So one of the things we want to highlight, this isn't something that we're just going to say, hey, good luck, let us know how it goes. You're going to have me, part of my daily tasks, and I can tell you from Arlington Heights over to Orland Park, down to Springfield, I'm going to those meetings. I'm going to the Chamber of Commerce meetings. I'm going to the school board meetings. We got a Chamber of Commerce meeting coming up north in Nailsip, Illinois, to talk about the program. The good news is, if you look on the Atlanta website, it's connectatlanta.org, they have over 20,000 cameras, and these are business owners that have agreed to share, but then they also have the residents that are just saying, you know what, I want to be a good partner, but I don't want to share my cameras, but I want to let you know I'm here. So part of that is part of that community outreach. That's a very, very important part of the Axon Fusus Real-Time Initiative, is to continue that community outreach. So the short answer is I'm local, born and raised here in Illinois. I'm here when you need it, and you craft the program how you want. What we are seeing is a lot of towns, cities across Illinois are getting creative. Oak Brook, for example, their challenge was the Oak Brook Center Mall. They had a horrible mass shooting there a couple of Christmases ago. That was one portion of it, but they also had the residents. They had the businesses. They had homeowners association. So one of the things Oak Brook is they're incentivizing businesses that, hey, the first 25 businesses that sign up, you're gonna pay nothing for this program. So that's why we're so happy with the Illinois Attorney General's initiative with the organized retail crime. This is the second year it's in motion. We have every indication it's going to continue, and that's bridging the retailers. But as we continue with this program, now we're talking to the school districts, and the school districts are sharing in the costs. Example, up in Orland Park, and right now we're just launching this initiative with Tinley Park. Both those school districts share the same, municipalities share one of the same high school districts, and now the school districts are helping offset that cost. But it truly is a case-by-case basis. This is your program. You, the chief, the mayor, the city manager, could decide how to craft it, but we have a lot of good ideas, and you're going to have me here for support to explain that program.
So for a private citizen, the way that they would be a part of this, if they have like a Ring doorbell, but like if they have like an iPhone, they're not hooking their cloud up or something like that to the software to share, like, you know, if they recorded something.
No, we generally, the goal is, and hit a background in law enforcement after 34 years, a good chunk on the back end of my career was doing neighborhood canvases. You know, critical incident would happen usually 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and we're knocking on doors, and we're looking for video, and we're unfortunately waking people up. With this community portion of it, we're not looking to get access to the residents' cameras. We're just looking to send them an email and just say, hey, listen, you might have had 4 catalytic converters cut on your block between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. When you wake up, can you check your system and see if you see a red car, a blue car, whatever. If you do see it, here's my name, here's my number, here's the case number. A process that may be 5, 6, 7 doors that don't need to be knocked on by the police officers, and that cost is $0. The residents sign up, and that's completely free, and the website will be created and maintained by the Axon team. And again, if you check out the Sync Springfield website, that's just been up and running a couple months. There's hundreds of residents that registered for this free program to help out with the Springfield team.
No, thank you for the clarification. I think this has the ability to be good for our city. I think it will just be very important that we engage the residents and combat, you know, any of the questions or concerns about this anytime you talk about accessing video footage and things of that nature, just to make sure that people know that there is a privacy component to this. But thank you for your presentation tonight. Appreciate the innovation by our police department as always. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Sear?
Couple questions. This is a great program. Obviously, the initial costs will be covered by grants. Can you talk to us, Mr. Howard, about future costs like maintenance or replacement or the warranties maybe on the system, upgrades?
So we partner with the Axon team, and under our current model this year, we do not charge for integration fees. We don't charge for seat fees. We don't charge license fees. The goal, you know, before our merger was we want to help offset that cost because we know there's disparate camera systems out there. We know there's disparate LPR platforms, and our model has always been whatever your current platforms are today or tomorrow, we are not going to charge fees. Our network device that we use to bridge those disparate camera systems, those are warranted for life. For whatever reason, if it fails, you know, if it gets old, the chip goes bad, we immediately replace it. So there's no hidden gimmicks, there's no hidden fees. This year, now with the Axon model, Could it possibly change in the future? It might, but right now, as we stand here today, it's just everything is included. And again, whether the drones want to be pulled in to the platform, we don't charge any hidden gimmicks, integration fees, license fees, seat fees, anything like that.
Thank you, sir. Question for Mr. Manager. Where does that fit in the future? That be any expenses? That part of the chief's
This would be
budget?
part of the police department's budget.
That's part of their budget.
Yep.
So we wouldn't touch the general fund for that.
No, it's that the police budget is in the general fund, so that's where this would be funded out of.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, Chief, I'd like to ask you, I get the impression that right now we are not doing any of this sharing with businesses, not-for-profits, schools. We're not doing any of it. Is that right?
We don't have a place to funnel it all into. No, we don't. I mean, do we share? Well, do they share with us? Yes. It's a little bit more tedious now and time-consuming, right?
Oh, okay. That was my impression. You did mention businesses, and the gentleman mentioned schools. Not-for-profits would also be involved here along with the residential. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is this going to involve, not near term, but long term, is this going to involve more personnel at the police department?
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And Madam Mayor, I'll move for approval.
Okay, of the item A, receive and file. May I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any questions? Member Gordon Young?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Please cast your ballots. Passes unanimously. Councilmember Sear had stepped out, so he didn't vote on that. Councilmember Kelly?
I will move for approval on item B.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Okay. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Greb?
Yes, I thought I was going to have some questions answered.
Oh, you had a question? Go right ahead.
I already asked them, and I was told that we'd have to wait until item B.
Oh, that's the next.
The drones are after this one.
Yeah, it's
the drone
it's the next
presentation
thing.
is the next.
We're just still on 122.
123 is the council, the drone presentation.
Okay.
So we're voting on 122, item B. If you can vote, Councilmember Sear? Great. Motion passes unanimously.
24-123 is a communication from the city manager and chief of police with a request for the following. A, receive and file a presentation regarding the Peoria Police Department's drone program, and B, approve an agreement with Unmanned Vehicle Technologies to purchase drones and drone equipment with DCEO grant funds in the amount of $100,000.
Madam, excuse me, Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I'll turn the floor over to our police chief to walk through this next item.
Yes, good evening again, and thank you. I'm going to present Sergeant Stenson, who is our resident expert on drones. He's done a phenomenal job to get us to this point, and with the drones that we have, but we definitely need to expand. So I'm going to pass this off, the mic off to Sergeant Stenson, so he can get up here and present on the drone program.
Great. Good to see you, Sergeant Stenson.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members, city manager. Thank you, Chief. So I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about our drone program. I am the drone commander currently. We call it an unmanned aerial system program, or otherwise known as a drone program. I'll discuss the uses of these drones for more efficient police services, city business, the benefits to the community, and making sure we're protecting privacy rights of our residents with policies and procedures that are already in place. And I'd like to mention that this is a service that we have been providing to the community for several years now. I'm very happy and pleased that whenever there's a news article or a mention that the police have used drones, canines, or something in a situation, that it's always had positive feedback. Also, whenever we've gone to any type of police community thing, a lot of people want to touch the drones. A lot of people want to fly the drones. They feel very comfortable with the drones. What is a UAS or drone? Unmanned aerial system or drone is a air vehicle that does not have a human. It basically is piloted by remote or autonomously. What regulates us is the Freedom from Drone Act. The Freedom from Drone Act is, I'm sorry, I think that was the last one. The Freedom from Drone Act keeps us on our left and right limits. It tells us what we can do, what we cannot do, what we shall do, what we shall not do. And again, we've been following these rules as set forth. We do not currently and will not conduct any unreasonable search or seizures. We will not weaponize any drone. We will not use facial recognition technology and will not record sound during flights other than two-way communications during police or SWAT negotiation situations. How can drones be used? The obviouses are any type of searching for children, missing endangered persons, escaping or fleeing suspects. But I like to add that it's a workforce multiplier. The use of a drone will enhance the current staffing levels. Simply, a drone will allow an individual employee to do more, which is critical in today's environment of workforce competition and staffing challenges. Not having to place an employee into a certain environment is important to us. Drones as first responders allows the pilots to escalate or de-escalate a call for service. For example, if there's a fire call, a drone could be on scene in seconds and provide if a fire extinguisher will do or a full fire response is needed. We're looking at these to be city drones, not just for the City of Peoria Police Department. There are infinite opportunities with this drone program. We are working with all city departments such as Public Works, city engineers, community development, fire, and code. Used for project surveying, logistics planning, smart city infrastructure, and mapping. The possibilities with drones and being partnered with our other city counterparts is limitless. The fire department is excited to come in with the police department to add to our training, and with that being said, we will have the capabilities of training anybody in the city to be Part 107 FAA certified to fly. We have a program that's called Gleam that we'll currently use and provide for that. We currently have 12 pilots that are all FAA licensed and certified. They will all be required and do quarterly and monthly training. One of the things that is very important to the community, and I know Councilman Allen as well, is transparency. I'm very excited and proud to say that we are going to have a transparency board available for our citizens to go into, look at, and see what we are doing. The little red dots you see on that map are little bitty drones. They can hover over that and they can get any of the information that you can see up there, the name of the pilot, location, date, time, reason, a summary, if footage was recorded in flight time. Transparency, it is the policy of the City of Peoria Police Department that operation of drones shall be carried out in a manner that respects, protects personal privacy consistent with the United States Constitution and federal, state, and local law. The impact on privacy and civil liberties shall be balanced against the governmental interests leading to a drone deployment. The Peoria Police Department will only collect information and use, retain, or disseminate information obtained for a properly authorized purpose. Now, the new drones that we're looking to receive, one will be the Avata. The Avata is like a little flying tank. These things can go indoors, which will be good for our SWAT teams or our police officers. They will be good for our fire department, which they do have actually a good heat rating. They actually recently have recorded some of the volcanoes that were going on. but also for our engineers or anybody that's looking for structural integrity without a person actually having to go inside of a building. If this was get knocked down or falls, it has a turtling option where it'll right itself up, kind of like a little Terminator in my opinion, and it'll get back up in the air and start flying. We currently have M2T. The T stands for thermal. The M is for a Mavic. We're looking to get M3Ts, which is the upgraded version. Our current M2T has a lifespan already of about 6 years, which that's what you'll look forward to with purchasing of drones, a long lifespan. The battery is probably about 20 minutes right now. The new ones are up to 45 minutes. And then the M30T is the larger drone. This drone is a good workhorse. This drone, actually, unlike the other ones, if the battery is dying, you have to land them, turn them off, pull the battery out, put another one in. It doesn't take forever, but this one, you can land it, hot swap the batteries without ever having to turn it off, put it back up in the air, and also the batteries will charge while it's up in the air. The batteries will supercharge up to 40 minutes, and that means that drone will be staying in the air for a good time. It's wind and weather resistant and has a good zoom. We will purchase these through UVT with the DCEO funds, but the UVT also gives us warranties. They'll provide extra propellers, extra batteries, and they are maintained through the Peoria Police Department as our current drones have been. And with that, any questions?
Had a few questions. Councilwoman Gordon-Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question regarding the process. When, I don't know if it's launched or what the word is when they're in the air.
Sure.
Is there a notification that the public receives when that happens?
So the notifications that we make goes from dispatch to the Peoria Airport Tower. Being that the Peoria airspace is pretty full, we've met with our partners at Army Aviation, the Air Force National Guard, Mount Holly Airport, Life Flight. We've talked to all of them. They're all excited about it. They understand what our limits are with the airspace. The only notice or information that the public currently do not have but can have is going to be the transparency portal that we currently have. And so they can monitor that. As soon as an officer uses the drone will be used for any type of call for service that police have. We are bound to that Freedom of Information Act, so we don't just fly the drone recreationally. We don't use it for surveillance or anything like that. So if a police officer can go to a call, the drone can go to that call. When the pilot is done with that flight, they will automatically, within minutes, upload that information to the transparency portal. The state's attorney's office will also receive a notification to make sure that we're within our legal limits.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Officer, did you say we have 3 drones currently?
We currently have 2, but I really say 1. The M2T is the one that we've just been beating up over the last 6 years. The other one is obsolete. We really don't have any use for it, and it's no longer supported.
Well, you're kind of answering a little bit of my next question. Certainly these things will last forever if they're never put into difficult use. How long do they tend to last in real police work use?
That's a good question. So the one that is obsolete just became obsolete as of this year, and it's been around for 10 years. And of course, the one that we currently have, the M2T, that we've had that for over 6 years, and it's actually still going to be in use in our fleet.
And have they required any significant repairs or anything of that nature along the way?
No, that's the beautiful thing about them is if they crash or whatever, they're made better than almost any other aerial vehicle or even a car. A propeller will break or whatever, but it's a couple of screws and you put a brand new one back on. And with our contract with UVT, every drone will get several extra batteries, several extra propellers. There's a small town in Georgia of about 60,000 people who have a helicopter actually for their police department. They have since last year implemented a drone program, and they save an average of $14,000 a day versus putting up the big helicopter by using their drones.
Okay, and I would just like to say that I, like everyone else here, I read a lot of police reports, And we see that oftentimes a suspect tears off at high speed and we do not follow. And lo and behold, we find that particular vehicle parked at at a particular address, and I have thought many times, I think we have some drones working. So this sounds very good to me. I do wonder about restricting airspace to non-public use. I don't suppose you would anticipate doing that. You know, there are people who throw them up there and they use them for advertising. They use them for, you know, for whatever reason. You're not considering restricting the airspace generally over the city.
Correct. We're bound by everyone who will fly, whether you're doing it in commission or recreationally, we are bound by certain airspace rules. We do get what's called LANC authorization. That's also through dispatch in the tower. It will basically say you are authorized to fly in this area up to 100 feet for 1 hour because maybe they got a flight coming through or something like that. If there's an emergency and we have something going on, whether it's some type of terrorist attack or something like that, we actually will get priority. And actually, like the guard, life flight would actually lean on us for support and say, how can we help you? But when it comes to the regular airspace usage of civilians in our area, the drone community is really, really tight. It's kind of like if you own a Jeep or a Corvette, you wave at each other. A lot of times that we've been flying them over the last 6 years through the 4th of July, recently at the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We have a young gentleman who's very popular with his drone flights. Respectfully, we say this is the area that we'll be flying and this is the area you'll fly. This is the height that I'm at, this is the height that you'll be at. But we encourage our citizens to fly their drones. Our other partners are our partners in news. And so we've already kind of had discussions about, well, what if we have a homicide and we don't want a news drone up in the air seeing down on something that they probably shouldn't. Respectfully, we've talked to them and they don't have any problem working with us. The FAA does give law enforcement full reign on what they can do within their authority if they were to have to take law enforcement action. Basically, we will ask if they have a pilot license or a certificate to even fly recreationally, and that's the easy way. If they don't, we can say respectfully, you can't fly at this time if it's something that we need them out of the area for.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to receive and file.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Jackson. Questions? Councilman Greb, did you have anything?
Sergeant Stenson did such a great job.
Thank you, sir.
If we had more teachers in our schools who could explain things as adequately as he did, we'd be a lot better off. But thank you for answering my questions. I think you read my mind.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
It's great. Thank you.
You know, the other thing I would say is I think the examples that are provided here for the council on page 14 of 23 on this one are amazing because these are real life situations where we have threats to public safety and how they have been used successfully. And sometimes we can talk about things and it seems very theoretical, but when you take a look at some of these incident numbers and how they were used after an armed robbery or whatever, it's truly an important tool in our arsenal in terms of bringing criminals, hopefully, to justice.
Thank you. Are you a remote pilot, Sergeant?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Certified?
I've actually flown for about 11 years now.
Oh,
and I've
okay.
also flown a couple of drones in the military that armed with missiles, but I have done it for a while.
Okay, fantastic. We are voting on item A, receive and file. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd move to approve item B.
Seconded by Councilwoman Jackson. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
24-124 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the East Village Growth Cell Tax Increment Financing Economic Development Advisory Committee for the following. A, approve the East Village Growth Cell Garage Demolition Program guidelines, and B, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2024-2025 biennial budget relating to the East Village Growth Cell TIF to designate $100,000 in available TIF increment funds to the garage demolition program. And item B requires 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6, and we need separate votes on each, please.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn the floor over to our Community Development Director, Mr. Doolin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Manager. So the East Village Growth Cell Advisory Board met a month or so ago. One of the things that we're trying to do is the TIF has done a decent job of generating increment, and part of that increment goes into a housing program. Due to the last 2 or 3 years of the city having substantial amount of money for home rehab programs, we haven't seen quite the utilization that we had in the past. So we wanted to see how we could use some of those funds to still provide some better housing options in the East Bluff. Matt Smith and Ashley Elias and Carrie Lynn Wick in our office came together and came up with this program. One of the things we see a lot in detached garages is the holes in the roof, failing walls, things like that, but they're quite a substantial investment if you go out and get a contractor to come and tear it down. But with our city contractor for demolition, we can get the average cost about $3,000 or $4,000 to remove the garage and kind of clean up the neighborhood. So in the East Bluff, we will use kind of $100,000 of TIF funds as a pilot program to allow property owners, if they have a deteriorating garage and they want to remove that blight from the neighborhood, they can have a contract with us to have it removed with us. So I didn't know if Councilman Riggenbach wanted to add anything because he was at the advisory board with us.
Councilman Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to add a little additional commentary to that. A couple things of note here, and this is in the communication as well, but since 2021, so in the last 3 years, we have had over 200 garages go before the hearing officer, and I think that just speaks volumes to the need of what this program is going to be addressing. And also, this will accomplish about 40, I think we said 40 demolitions of garages. So I'm just continue to be excited about the work that this East Village Growth Cell TIF has accomplished for the city. And when we talk about the economic development engine that it provides, it also helps those neighborhoods. And this is just a perfect example of continuing to see what the needs are in the neighborhood and addressing them square on. So with that, I would move for approval of item A.
Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. It passes unanimously. Riggenbach?
I would also move for approval of item B.
Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
24-125 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request for the following. A, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2024-2025 biennial budget relating to the general fund budget for fiscal year 2024 for additional construction funds in the amount of $458,230. And this item requires 2/3 vote of the council members voting, not less than 6. And then item B is to approve the low bid of Stark Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $10,364,979.60 and award a contract for the Depot Street roadway and site improvements with an additional authorization of $518,250.40 for contingencies, for a total contract award of $10,883,230. And we need separate votes on each, please.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With this item, I believe that we do have our city engineer, Andrea Kloppenstein, here, as well as our finance director is here. This is for Depot Street, and I will turn the floor over to our city engineer to let her discuss this item.
Hello, thanks for letting us come and talk about this exciting project. We will be putting in a new street called Depot Street, as well as a parking lot with almost 300, or just over 300 parking stalls in the warehouse district. I'm sure you're all aware of the need for this parking, so we're very excited to get started on constructing this. We're also building a water line so that we can feed those businesses that are coming in there.
Any questions? Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say I'm excited to see this project go forward. I do have one question. If I'm not mistaken, Depot behind Red Brick Street, is it a red brick street in the back in some areas, if I'm not mistaken?
Oak Street, as it comes down to Depot, there is no street on Depot Street.
Right.
So it's basically unimproved alleyway. That was that stretch that we acquired to put in this parking space to serve the 800 to 1000 block of Washington Street. There is asphalt on Depot Street in between WTVP and the Seal Test building. But there is brick on Oak from Washington to Depot Street.
Okay, I was just wondering whether or not any of that would have to be removed. And if it is, do we just dispose of it, or?
So we are doing part of the water line along Oak Street, and it will be replaced with the red brick.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So the water line is going down the brick Oak Street, and the brick will be replaced.
Okay. Well, if any of it is salvageable, do we always just kind of, what do we do with that?
So I think in this instance, we're going to use the same brick and just put it right back.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Do you want to make a motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that item A be approved.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Any discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilwoman Jackson?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that item B would be approved.
By Councilmember Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
(24-126) is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request for the following. A, approve the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $7,206,538.78 with an additional authorization of $720,653.88 for contingencies, for a total project amount of $7,927,192.66 for the combined sewer overflow project, year 3. B, approve and execute the notice of intent to award to Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $7,206,538.78, contingent upon award of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency loan for the combined sewer overflow control project, year 3. C, approve and authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. for the combined sewer overflow control project, year 3. D, approve an agreement with Illinois American Water Company for reimbursement to the city of Peoria in an amount not to exceed $1,333,928.98 for certain water main replacement work being performed by the city's contractor, Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc., for the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 3. And E, adopt an ordinance amending the City of Peoria 2024-2025 biennial budget relating to the sewer fund budget for fiscal year 2024 for certain water main replacement relating to the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project Year 3 in the amount of $1,333,928.98, and for the corresponding reimbursement from Illinois American Water Company. And item E requires 2/3 vote of council members voting, no less than 6, and we need separate votes on each item.
Okay, all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Assistant Director Kloppenstein.
So tonight's project is year 3 of the Combined Sewer Overflow projects. We've done 2 years already. It's an 18-year program that we have, so we're just still at the beginning. This year's project, there's a map inside your council packets. The locations are kind of spread out through an area, so it's kind of hard to describe verbally. Looking at the map is easier. For the year 3 project, we are doing a little bit different than what we've done in years 1 and 2. We'll still be doing some permeable pavers, but we're also doing some raised intersections. This is exciting for us because that's one of the co-benefits that we've talked about with green infrastructure. By raising the intersection, and this is by Elise Ford School, we'll be able to raise it so the children, when they're walking to school, are higher and will be more visible to the vehicles that are driving through, making it safer for the pedestrians to cross the street, as well as address the combined sewer overflow issue.
Thank you. Councilmember Grant.
Master Engineer Kloppenstein, is this all pretty much an outgrowth of the consent decree that we entered into with the federal government in 1920 and 2020?
Yes, this is it. This is year 3 of the 18-year program that we have.
And this is something that we negotiated over many years with the federal government. Now we're having to spend the money to do this. Otherwise, we could have had punitive fines placed on the city of Peoria. And I don't think this was very easy to get to this point. There was pressure on the part of the federal government for us to go with a gray model instead of a green model. And that gray model would have probably meant foreign labor, not necessarily domestic labor, doing a 40-foot trench down by the Illinois River. So when we were told a few years ago that we had the opportunity to approve a largely green model with a lot of our local workers, good paying jobs, to stop some of this runoff into the river, the council then jumped at it. Manager, would you like to add anything to the painful process we went through?
Painful is an understatement. It was a lengthy negotiation. As City Engineer Kloppenstein said, this is year 3 of 18, and we are well on our way. We continue to actually start. I think we're doing some planning work for year 4 as well. So we know that it's a significant undertaking, but as City Engineer Kloppenstein mentioned, there's co-benefits in the community for us doing this, and that's really what we wanted to do with this approach towards the consent decree.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, let's talk about money just a little bit. If you could tell us again about the financing. Obviously, we all know it's an 18-year project, but will be financed over 38 years, right? Now we're in the first tranche, correct, which is a 5-year tranche.
So, and the item here this evening, one of the points it talks about is that it's contingent upon the award of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency loan for the Combined Sewer Overflow Control Project. We have been borrowing money from the state's revolving loan fund at an interest rate that's below 2%. If you think about it right now with where interest rates are and where mortgage rates are, that's a really good deal for us. And in fact, as part of that, We've also been able to secure some grants that will help us to offset some of the costs as well. But that's how we're financing that. We've built that into our sewer rates. So that has been built into where we're looking at where our sewer rates need to go over the next, and as Councilman Sear is correct, over the next 38 years, because we're going to be borrowing money for the next 18 or 14 years, and then we have 20 years to pay that back. So you're going to see that the sewer rates will go up, and then they'll eventually come back down because we'll be paying off that debt service. Once we take on all of this green infrastructure and we have the maintenance responsibilities for that, that's going to fall on our stormwater utility fund. And that's where, within the Public Works Department, the stormwater utility will manage and maintain all of the green infrastructure throughout the city.
So just to make sure we all understand, the first loan was for the first 5 years, correct? Which is the first tranche.
Yeah, the first tranche that we borrowed had the authorization up to, and then we've had to go back and get approvals every year, and that's what we've done. So,
thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion if possible.
Sure.
Move to approve the low bid, item 24-126A, please.
Seconded by Council Member Jackson. Continued discussion, Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of clarification for the city manager. You talked about in the future the funds from the collected from the stormwater fees will go towards maintaining the sewer project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, will that have any impact on stormwater utility projects? Or will those projects not be of a need as a result of?
No, we fully anticipate, in order to comply not only with this consent decree, and not only to comply with the Clean Water Act, which is the other unfunded mandate that we have from the federal government, that we're going to have continued stormwater projects throughout the city that we're going to have to utilize the stormwater utility fund for. So I don't think that's going away. I think that we've this budget that we're in this year that you've approved has a number of drainage projects in it that staff will be undertaking and it will be working towards. And we fully anticipate that as we continue down this path, there will be more drainage projects that we have to address.
And just another point of clarification. I know we're in year 3. When this started, we were in the North Valley, and you had talked about the fact most of the work would be taking place in older neighborhoods. It's been concentrated primarily in the North Valley and on the south side. Where do we see the work moving in years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Do we have any idea?
So we have a plan for the first 5 years, which I didn't put in your packet, but
Right.
I have it if you want to see it. The first 5 years we do have planned.
Right.
With our consent decree, we have flexibility to adjust what we're doing and where we're doing it. So we plan the first 5 years. We're going to see how things are working, how maintenance is going. That'll give us time to do the monitoring. We'll start to show the results, and then we'll adapt from there to come up with our next 5-year plan. But I do have a map of the area that I can share with you.
Okay. Well, I was just kind of concerned with year 10, 11, but we don't know yet, is what you're saying.
Yes, we don't have the exact project area identified, but we have the CSO area identified. So we know years 1 through 5 where we're going to put it, and then we have the rest in a bucket.
Okay. Thank you very much. Madam Mayor, if we're on item B,
We're still on A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Move to approve?
You seconded.
Yes.
Councilman Sear moved and you seconded.
Okay.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Engineer Klopfenstein, my vote is not at risk here. I just need a little info. I'm looking at the target area, and I can't quite read on the map the third color. It's a light blue color, and it looks to me like GI or GT bump in. And even if I knew which it was, GI or GT. I still wouldn't know what that is. What is a bump in?
So it's GI, green infrastructure, and then bump in. We have bump outs, which go out into the street, and you have the curbs that come out. So this is going inside, so away from the street, and it's underground infiltration. So it's a rock trench where we put the water, and then it soaks into the ground. It's a term one of our consultants made up, so I fully understand why you don't know what that is.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Councilman Seer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, just one more question, very important. I get so many. I want to make sure my colleagues and people that are listening understand the difference between the two programs we have, which is obviously downtown District 1 and 2 and District 3, 4, and 5, which is the stormwater and the CSO. Can you explain that a little bit? I want to make sure people understand the difference between the two programs that we have.
Well, we are under a federal consent decree to stop as many of the combined sewer overflows that we have in the older parts of the city. In those areas, we have combined sanitary and storm sewers. So that means rainwater mixes in with your toilet water. And what happens is that when it rains or the snow melts, we end up belching that sewage into the Illinois River. They've told us try and eliminate the number of those overflows that we have to a standard that we negotiated and took many years to negotiate to. The other federal unfunded mandate that we have is our Clean Water Act mandate. As a unit of local government, we're required to comply with the federal Clean Water Act. We have drainage. If you think of every street, there's a drain that's connected to almost every street in the city. There are creeks throughout the city. There is rainwater that flows off of properties and flows into those creeks, and then that eventually gets out into the Illinois River. We're required under that federal mandate to manage stormwater inside the city of Peoria. And so that's something that we do through our stormwater utility, and that's citywide. But it also, predominantly, it's in Districts 4 and 5 is where we're seeing a lot of those drainage projects. But we've had other drainage projects. We had, for example, in District 2 on Merle Lane, we had a culvert that we replaced, which is right along Knoxville. That was a project that was done within the stormwater utility. So it is a kind of a citywide mandate for both. One has a specific geographic location, which is where we have combined sewers. The newer parts of the city, Districts 4 and 5, and parts of Districts 1, 2, and 3, actually, now that we have the new boundaries of the city, of the council districts, those new areas have the separated storm and sanitary sewers. So there we're only talking about, we're not really talking about having to make any changes there, because then the stormwater goes into the storm system and the sanitary sewage goes into the GPSD sewer system.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Very good. We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve item A. Councilmember Grant?
Yes, I don't want to rain on the parade, but Engineer Klopfenstein, do you anticipate the EPA will be coming in periodically to audit our success as it relates to that storm that we're going off before Christmas in 1949? And if they come in, could they alter the model from predominantly or maybe exclusively green into a gray aspect?
So yes, we know that the EPA is watching us closely. We have annual reports that we're submitting. We have documents that they have to review, and they are giving us very detailed feedback on that information. So we know they're closely watching what we're doing. As far as if they could come in and change our consent decree, that's probably a legal question, but I hope the answer is no.
Well, I would think that if we're meeting our targets, that shouldn't be an issue, but our attorney will know more, probably.
Council Hayes?
Thank you.
in an enforcement action, they could modify the consent decree. So one of the sets of exchanges we have on an annual basis is that we have to report annually on our stormwater program. And the comments we get are significant, and we're in a continuing set of discussions because our system and the design of the system is intentionally, as the city engineer mentioned, sort of an as-you-go process. And so the federal government could come up with data that they feel that they're the initial thoughts of what we would need to do to interdict the pollution that the citations, were focused on, have to be, our methods have to adjust to do a better job. So that consent decree will be a work in progress as long as it's in place. I can tell you that we are in general compliance, and at essence, this was a program that the federal government suggested, and we took them up on the invitation, but because they've never done it before, everybody's kind of figuring it out as we go. So,
well, I think we're one of the few cities that has this predominantly, almost exclusively green model, which I think is great.
Right. So there'll be some complexity going forward, but I think that so far the federal government has stayed within the boundaries of what we originally agreed to, but there is some flexibility that'll be coming forward in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Vespa?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just another question for Mr. Hayes. I think Chevron deference is actually a big issue that the Supreme Court's about to tackle. And what that means is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that agencies like the EPA will not be given deference by federal courts, and if we want to challenge something, we might be able to succeed. Is that a reasonable interpretation of Chevron deference? And do you think we might be able to get out from under this?
I would not want to speculate on what the outcome of that case will be, but we're watching it carefully. I think it unlikely that our consent decree would simply go away, even if there was a significantly adverse outcome from the Supreme Court decision towards agency deference. I think that might have a significant impact, though, on the flexibility that the court's willing to accord the government going forward, as long as we're showing good stewardship of the outflow of our stormwater. At the end of the day, that's the issue. Are we addressing under the Clean Water Act, which is a federal act? Are we addressing that to the court's satisfaction over time based on the data? That's what our design program is designed to do. And so I think that whether that gets us out from under the consent decree, I think that would be I wouldn't predict that outcome, no matter how tough it becomes on the agencies as far as that deference standard. Thank you.
I appreciate the answer. I think that's probably right, but in terms of interpreting whether we've been in violation of the consent decree going forward, I think going to course with that, it could have an impact. Just my opinion, though. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We are going to vote on item A. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve item 24-126, letter B.
Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve item 24-126, letter C.
Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve item 24-126, letter D.
Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to adopt the new ordinance from file 24-126, letter E.
Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Please cast your ballots. Passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
24-127 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to receive and file the month ended February 29, 2024, an audited financial report.
Mr. Manager, sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to turn it over to our Finance Director, Director Craddy, to walk through this item.
Since I am the last item on the agenda, I will attempt to be brief. Just looking at the high-level area of the report, I am happy to report that we are on track where we anticipated to be at this time of the year. On the general fund, we're $3,000 up on revenue, and on expenses, we're down about $9,000. So we are tracking pretty much exactly where we anticipated to be at this point during the year. It's something we'll have to continue to monitor kind of as we get revenue sources in and obviously any state action that might be coming up. The only other item I would bring to council's attention is if you're looking at the bridge loan information in here, you'll see that we received substantial repayment from the Civic Center to the tune of about $8 million in the month of February. The Civic Center is putting in their next application, or they put in their last application at the end of March, so we should receive our next payment for those items, and we'll start to see those consistently coming in. And just a reminder for council, we will potentially have bridge loan application payments from the Civic Center going forward. That trigger point in the agreement with them is once they have cash flows below $1.5 million, it triggers us using the bridge loan to help with those capital improvements. There's still about $15 million left in capital improvements under that DCEO grant, so we will probably have additional draws, but we're going to start seeing payments come in on a more regular fashion. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Craddy, your graph on personal property replacement tax, I'd like a little explanation because the revenue seems to be way down,
yep,
which looks worrisome. At the same time, the last sentence on the explanation says currently this revenue is above IML projections, which I believe, but could you explain to us what's going on with this? Because it looks like it's bad, but it's better than we thought.
Correct. So there is a formula behind how the allocation of PPRT occurs. I believe it was last year, actually IML in discussions with the Department of Revenue brought to the Department of Revenue's to their attention that there was an issue with the formula. So what had happened is that local governments had a larger allocation of PPRT instead of some of the revenues that should have gone to the state as part of just general income taxes. And so what is occurring is we are seeing, in essence, we are having to pay back for that overpayment. And so the anticipation has been a 35% reduction last year, which is what we have seen in 2023. And we have budgeted to have about another 35% reduction this year, which we're on pace to still meet. Current projections actually have ticked that number up to the positive a little bit, but I'm always a little hesitant to promise that that's where we're going to end up. So why it's worrisome, we have planned for it, we have budgeted in accordance with it, and we're still on track to meet that.
Thank you. That was very clear. And Madam Mayor, I will move to receive and file.
Okay. Seconded by Councilwoman Gordon-Young. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Craddy, for the report. Just a quick question. We were in the previous item, we talked about the stormwater utility fee and combined stormwater overflow. And when you talk about the stormwater utility fee, can you talk about, are we successfully collecting the amount of eligible fees that are out there? I know when you talk to different people in the community, they have varying opinions about the stormwater utility fee And so I just wanted to see how our success rate is because it is still a very new expenditure for our residents.
Yeah. Overall, our collection rate is relatively strong. We're in around the 90% rate. However, we actually do recognize that that's not where it needs to be. That is why we have brought forward to council, I believe, last fall, looking at using the local debt recovery program to help us in some of our recovery efforts on some of these non-paid bills. And that's a process we're still going through with the comptroller's office and we'll probably have done in the next few months. So we do realize it's an area we could probably continue to do better, and we're striving to find ways to be better at it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Director Craddy, thank you very much for the report again. I was not going to ask this question, but since Mr. Allen asked a question, what is our collection rate for our real estate property?
So our real estate collection is usually around 98%.
Was this bill on the real estate bill for a while? Was it ever been on the real estate bill?
The stormwater?
Yes.
No, it has not.
Okay. So but I thought our rate was about the same as the real estate bill. Am I incorrect in that?
Collection rate?
Collection rate, yes.
The collection rate on the stormwater bill is slightly lower than what our collection on our property tax rates are.
You've done an exceptional job here with our money that we have in hand. I'm looking at page 7 of 10, the $88 million we have right now invested in different banks. Are you satisfied? Some of these rates look, I want to make sure we're competitive. I mean, are you happy with the rates of return we're getting on some of these treasury bills?
Yeah, I think obviously if you look at it on face value, the concern is always going to be we have some longer term maturities with a lower interest rate. So the question is always going to be, if I can just have my liquid money here, why am I taking a lower rate further out on the curve? And what we're trying to build in here is locking in some of our rate of return, especially on our treasury bills, knowing that the Federal Reserve has already come out and said they're probably going to have 3 pullbacks on rates this year. So we're trying to bake in some of those rates in the long term, taking a little bit less interest immediately, but probably having a larger return in the long term.
So because you did such an exceptional job last year, how much money did we collect on our interest last year? And I know that was a surprise, and where is it at in our budget?
Yeah, so last year we collected around $6 million in overall interest in the general fund. We're looking at probably being closer to $4.5 million-ish this year, just assuming that rate pullback, as well as some expenditures, just using some of our cash on hand.
Thank you very much. Last question. We have, according to this report, about $57 million in our general fund, correct? There is a lot of money. We're spending a lot of money and we're investing a lot of money tonight. You and I had many discussions about this. Tell us a little bit. I mean, we have an obligation, I believe, to have at least a minimum amount in our emergency fund, right? What are your prediction that when will we run out of this $77 million?
Yeah, so the council policy is to have a 25% fund balance in our general fund. The budget that council approved back in November anticipates us hitting that 25% with no other changes in 2028.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We have a motion on the floor to receive and file. Please cast your ballots. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Director Craddy. Madam Clerk?
We're at unfinished business. We do not have anything listed, so we'll be at new business.
Do we have any new business? Councilmember Grab?
Yes, I do have new business. Once again, it appears that we have some of our lawmakers in Springfield trying to undermine our Peoria police, undermine tranquility in our neighborhoods, and erode once again our home rule powers. And I think all of you are well aware of some of the House bills that are pending that would make it more and more difficult for us to go after malignant, out-of-control nuisance properties. Corporate Counsel Hayes, could you give us some detailed information on this?
Yes, Councilman Grab, and thank you for sharing your concerns with me earlier today. There are 2 items of legislation which have recently given us a great deal of concern and that we've communicated. The first one I'll discuss is House Bill 473. That bill, the most troubling section of the legislation, not only reduces municipal zoning authority, but it includes a preemption of home rule authority, so that would affect the city. That part of this bill is of the most concern for us. There's been an element of the municipal code relating to zoning powers that has essentially been unchanged since the municipal code was crafted. And that grants to all local communities the authority to classify, to regulate, and to restrict the use of property on the basis of family relationship, which family relationship may be defined as one or more persons, each related to the other by blood, marriage, or adoption, and maintaining a common household. Council will recall the lengthy discussions we had about group home occupancy and how we can require not only a limitation on that, but also special use permits if there's a larger amount of people in a single family residence that are unrelated. This law would strip that authority from the city of Peoria and all cities throughout the state of Illinois. It's an essential element of zoning regulation and protects our single-family residential neighborhoods, which is sort of the bulwark of our communities. And so we have articulated our opposition to that as a community quite directly, as well as the Illinois Municipal League is opposing this legislation. It appears that this item won't be called, at least that's the representation we've heard. I think with this and the other items of legislation I'll discuss, we need to remain vigilant and continue to articulate that local zoning authority should remain in the discretion of local elected officials such as yourselves, and allow the community members to come forward to speak directly. Like I used to say in my last role, city officials have their constituents actually breathing on them when they're making decisions for them. It's an intimate situation. We are the most responsive element of government in the state of Illinois because we do things right in front of our community. You're right here. And so I think we take these roles seriously and we control ourselves. Our own limitations on this are appropriate. We do have challenges with fair housing issues, which is a concern some people have raised in this arena. I feel that we're good stewards of this authority and it shouldn't be reduced by a legislative act. A similar, although not identical, piece of legislation is within both House Bill 5432 and Senate Bill 3680. Their identical amendments were filed on these bills in both chambers earlier this spring. The bills would essentially dismantle crime-free housing and chronic nuisance ordinances. The bills preempt home rule authority. The bills would protect landlords and tenants from enforcement of any penalties based on any contact with law enforcement, even if those incidents included criminal convictions. Senate Bill 3680 and House Bill 5432 would prohibit local governments from enacting a program, ordinance, or resolution that penalizes landlords and tenants for excessive nuisance contact with law enforcement, ordinances that allow or require landlords to evict or penalize tenants for criminal convictions or unlawful conduct, and would restrict municipalities from allowing or requiring the use of criminal background checks of prospective or current tenants. They would void existing program ordinances or resolutions that are contrary to these restrictions and would require that they be repealed no later than 1 year after the effective date of the legislation. The legislation is still poised to advance in this legislative session. So our delegation needs to hear from our community that it opposes Senate Bill 3680 and House Bill 5432. The legislation is an initiative of the Illinois Realtors, which is disappointing because these ordinances are crafted to protect property values in our neighborhoods. And yet this legislation was crafted by the realtors and is still being advocated for by that constituent, that special interest group. The city's ordinance requires criminal convictions, not merely arrests, to trigger penalty provisions, a method that the realtors acknowledge is not prohibited under current law, but would be under their sponsored legislation. An example, the proposed legislation prohibits an ordinance that penalizes a landlord on the basis of any contact with law enforcement. A landlord renting to a tenant that is convicted of multiple drug or prostitution offenses on the rental property cannot be required to evict that tenant and cannot be penalized as a chronic nuisance landlord as provided in the city's ordinances. The title of the legislation is Local Crime-Free Housing Ord, but if enacted as presently written, it might more appropriately be titled Local Crime-Spree Housing. So please contact your legislators and tell them that you're opposed to House Bill 5432 and Senate Bill 3680.
Corporation Counsel, I understand that during a cabinet meeting, it was decided that we should reach out to our state lawmakers in particular. And have we had any success getting a commitment that they would oppose such ridiculous, insane legislation, which once again doesn't protect neighborhoods and ties the hands of our police?
If I could defer to the city manager to respond because he's been in those direct conversations. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, the mayor and I were in Springfield last week. We met with Representative Spain, Assistant Majority Leader Gordon Booth, and Senator Kaler, where we did talk about this legislation, expressed our grave concerns to it, and we very clearly articulated our position, and that they understood definitely where we stood on this issue, and it's our hope that when the time comes that they'll support sensible legislation and the ordinances that we have, and this is not sensible legislation. So,
I just cannot understand how any reasonable lawmaker could sponsor this. Once again, I see some of the folks behind this are from the Chicagoland area. Last I looked, we had another police officer gunned down who eulogized yet another police officer a year before after they went off duty. It just seems like they have lost track of what we're trying to do here in Peoria, and that's provide safe neighborhoods and to empower our police to go after malignant properties, out-of-control properties. And for the realtors to help their fat cat friends who obviously aren't community-oriented. To me, that is completely unforgivable. I hope we get an answer from the Peoria Board of Realty that they're not going along with the state Realty Association, or whatever you want to call it. Because if they're going to go along with this, I'm going to go to every neighborhood meeting I have, I guarantee you, and I'm going to be pointing the finger at who has done this. We work our tails off to make safe neighborhoods and to get to these properties that are totally malignant. And then they want to take that away from us. It is unconscionable. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you, Corporate Counsel Hayes, for such a complete exposition of the problem that faces us.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Riggenbach, new business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We appreciate having the consent agenda on nights like this when there's so much meat on the agenda, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't just point out a couple tidbits on the Salvation Army special use that we approved. And this is just the first step in quite a process that they're going to be going through, and they're applying for a grant from the state of $2 million to help make this a reality. But we're all familiar with the Salvation Army. You know, they have the veteran services, they have a family shelter. Did you know, though, that their food pantry is the largest food pantry in Central Illinois? And another thing that I just became aware of as I got involved with this is that their men's shelter is the only low barrier shelter in Central Illinois as well, and that this expansion will allow them to virtually double that to about 73 beds is the number that I recall hearing. So we just want to recognize the work that Salvation Army does and what they do for the community, and that they really, we can just wish them all the best as this grant processes through the state. So thank you for your support, and there will be more coming and more action from us going forward.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not to diminish anything having been said thus far about the legislature, there can be bright sides as well. And a couple of weeks ago, the Senate, with the leadership of Senator Kaler and Senator Stoller, passed, finally, after I think it's 9 years, an amendment to the tax abatement program we had for residential property in some of our more difficult neighborhoods. And this has been taken up by, at least by Representative Spain, and he was going to be talking to Representative Gordon Booth. I haven't checked on that. I imagine she will go along. This will expand that tax abatement ability to rehabs, which is an amendment to a nice sounding statute which we took advantage of, but it was kind of impractical. Rehabs, I think, are something that we have every reason to promote in our city, especially in some of our tougher neighborhoods. And so hats off on that part of their legislative agenda. One other item, Madam Mayor, I guess the horse isn't dead, so I'll beat the horse a little bit more. Could you hold up again, unless it's in
Oh, I got rid of some of it.
Okay, okay.
It's about that thick. I know.
City council members are allowed to perform their functions as they see fit. So I'm not going to tell anybody what you ought to do, except I think you ought to at least consider getting your agenda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, on your iPads.
We do.
Well, and not on paper.
Yeah.
Forget the paper. You've got it all here. You've got every city council meeting we've ever had, all the minutes, all the extraneous stuff. When there's a change in one of our items, it gets on here right away. This is out, I think, usually before the paper is out. However, you are elected people. You can do what you wish, but I would once again urge you to consider making that switch. And thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Is there any other new business? Clerk?
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the city council.
Okay. We have 8 cards. Our first speaker is Daniel Wilton. Mr. Wilton?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, City Council, and good evening, uniformed civil servants and those of you that serve our city. My name's Dan. I live in Wardcliff neighborhood here in Peoria off of Sterling, and have been raising my family in that neighborhood for 10 years. Love it. I played in the backyard of a neighbor's yard when I was a little kid, born and raised in Peoria. I'm the wing chaplain at the 182nd Airlift Wing, so I have great joy and honor of serving in our Illinois Air National Guard, and I'm an HR professional for an orphan care ministry as well. Two main things. I love my neighborhood. I think it represents, perhaps like many other neighborhoods, Peoria at our best. We have sidewalks, streetlights, multi-generational, multi-ethnic. We know one another. We look out for one another. For 10 years, we haven't had any pest problems. Last year, we started seeing cockroaches in our home. This was troubling to us because we keep a clean home. We discovered 4 of our other neighbors also had cockroaches, and they all surrounded one home. So we talked to this neighbor who we've known for 10 years, and he had acknowledged that he was having a cockroach problem. We've spent a lot of money spraying our home. We've done all of the things. We thought perhaps this might be a public safety issue. They said it's not, directed us to code enforcement, and code enforcement has been on the job for a number of months, which leads me to my second thing. First thing is I love my neighborhood. I love my city. Second thing is I'm losing faith in the city's ability to respond appropriately. I will say this, they've done a number of things to care for our neighbor that's having the problem, but I continue to ask myself, under what circumstances would code be enforced as opposed to helping or homeowners deal with pests. So we have a rat box now because there's rats involved. The city's provided that. We're thankful. We pay on our own for the cockroach stuff. The city pays for this homeowner's house to be fumigated and all that sort of thing. They've come several times, just issued warning after warning after warning. There's always an excuse. So I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I've sought to be a good neighbor, and I just want to bring it to your attention that I'm asking the question to myself, under what circumstances will code be enforced when there's these sorts of negative impacts to me and this amazing neighborhood that I think represents the best of what our city hopes to be, that multi-generational, multi-ethnic community. So thank you, everyone, for listening. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff Leroy.
Hello, everybody in the City Council. Madam Mayor, I was here a month ago, and unfortunately, a couple people weren't here. We talked about the problem, what Dan had. I live across the street from Dan. And the city has done a good job trying to come out and trying to get this guy to clean up. As far as I know, he hasn't been ticketed for anything. And if you enable the guy, that's what I'm afraid of. If you keep enabling him to do this, he won't stop doing it one way or another. But on the bright side, after our meeting, I talked with you. You showed, great concern. John Kelly showed great concern that night. We had a talk with him. I've talked with Chuck Graham. Before that, I talked to Denise Jackson about the problem. And I talked with Joe Doolin, and he's been very responsive. And he said, and Ashley Elias, and he said that they would be out sometime this next week, and he would inform me as to when they were coming out. And they're going to come out with Peoria Pest Eliminators. because like what Dan said, it's quite a problem when you have, I mean, I'm 71 years old. We moved in there when we were 49, figuring this is forever. And when you move in and the kids all move out, you don't want cockroaches and rats to move in. It's just very distressing when you sit outside and you smell the neighbor's dog excrement out in the backyard, and every time they open up the door, you smell cat urine coming from the house. It's hard to have anybody over to the house. It's kind of an embarrassment, and like Dan said, it's a great neighborhood, all except for this one guy, and he just keeps it up time after time, doing something else just to antagonize the neighborhood. Yeah, code enforcement has cleaned up some stuff in the front, but there's quite a bit to go. My exterminator drove past the front of the house the other day when he came to check our rat box on the side of the house. And as he came by, he goes, "There's part of the problem." And he goes, "I looked over to the side," and he goes, "in the garage," he goes, "it was packed about 4 to 5 feet deep with nothing but garbage in there." And he goes, "That's where the rats live. That's where you're going to find the cockroaches." And I've shared some other things with Joe and with Chuck and with John. And hopefully this gets cleaned up pretty quick here, because it's very, very demoralizing every day. You keep hoping that something will break, something will happen, and just stop this guy. He's got more dogs and cats. And I tried calling PCAPs because you can only have a certain amount of pets, and he blamed the dogs on the daughter-in-law, which he never had, or the friends. These dogs have been there for 4 and 5 years, and he's got 2 cats, so that's over the amount, and he's never picked up the dog stuff in the backyard. So, but I appreciate your time. I know all of you probably heard from it because John shared it with people, I'm sure, and so did Chuck. And so I'm looking forward to seeing something done here. So I thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Jess Hill.
Good evening, Mayor Dr. Ali and folks of the City Council. I am here to announce that the 2024-2025 edition of my homeschooling resource guide is now available in digital and print format. I've updated it with a lot of new stuff. I even encourage kids to come to their city council meetings and get to know their local government officials. So anybody who's tuned in on WCBU or is watching live on cable and on the internet, if you'd like a free copy of the Central Illinois Homeschoolers Resource Guide, you can contact me, Jessamine Hill, at jhill85713@gmail.com. That's JHILL85713@gmail.com.
Thank you, Jess.
And I also want to thank you guys for acknowledging Child Abuse Awareness Month, because on April 30th also marks Day of the Homeschooled Child. It's sad and it may sound stereotypical, but there is abuse that does occur in homeschooled settings. I know, I survived it and so did my siblings, and there was nobody out there who even cared to help us. And I want to make a difference in doing that. I plan next year in my 2025-2026 homeschooling resource guide to add resources on who to contact if you believe there's abuse in a homeschool setting.
Good.
As Fred Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood said, look for the helpers. You will always find people helping.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jess.
You are welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Next, we have Doris Coaster.
All good to see you. My name is Doris Coaster. I'm a tax-paying homeowner and resident of 61605, known as the South Side of Peoria, or the best neighborhood in Peoria, whichever you want to. I am a current board member of Southside Citizens United for Change. In plain talk, if you consider Peoria a home, the home was approached by BioUrgia and Wolf ADM, and they knocked the door and asked for entrance. The Southside citizens said absolutely not, and so it seems they are trying to find the the back door to come into. Keep that in mind as I politely ask you to turn to page 40, section 9 of the information you've been given. Does everyone have that available? Citizens Opportunity, I'm reading the screen, excuse me. Community group recommended additions to the distillery TIF redevelopment plan. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. Page 40, section 9. You have not yet included the following language. The city will not provide any TIF assistance for any activity that will increase the currently permitted state and U.S. EPA pollution levels or add a new state or U.S. EPA air or water permit. Why is that? If you are going to spend TIF money to aid the CO2 pipeline, or if a CO2 pipeline ever comes to Peoria, additional protections must include but are not limited to science-based setbacks that will ensure no worker or public exposure to the OSHA NIOSH 15-minute CO2 short-term exposure limit, and an emergency response plan that includes a sustainable human and financial resource plan that enables the CO2 exposure limit and is financed by the business for as long as the pipeline is in operation. The evaluation tool and process. I'm going on to page 42, ongoing reporting and accountability. The evaluation tool and process for implementing the tool with each proposed project will be developed and implemented in an inclusive process with concerned residents of the South Side. Gathering information is a beginning, but not quite enough. Who's gathering the information? What is their motive for gathering? What is the level of their influence on the process? How are you going to use the information to make the project as safe as possible? And Chamber, who will hold you accountable? Who will hold you accountable? We, the Southside residents, need a continued seat at the table. And I don't mean pulling up a chair at the end of a process and politely informing us that it's too late for our voices to be heard. I personally hold each one of you accountable. Each one of you, because you've accepted the authority, the influence, and the perks of the seat you sit in. And you have, as a group and individually, agreed that you will represent the people of this city, and not some of them, all of them. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience.
Next, we have War Muhammad.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members.
My name is Worth Muhammad. I'm with the Don't Start Initiative and God's Music Production. We focus our message through music to reach youth who are influenced by negative music, to commit violent acts. A lot of y'all know that's what I do. When the narrative is usually why another black kid killed another black kid, a lot of times systemic racism is mentioned or economics. If you know me, I say that's not the cause, it's the music. It isn't John Kelly's fault why a kid got shot on the East Bluff. It isn't Patrick's fault. I believe it's the music. So I am here to speak about the distillery TIF, but before I get to that, I want to inform you all on what's going on down at the Peoria County Courthouse. I have volunteered to go sit down on a couple trials and just make sure that people are being treated fairly. Their constitutional rights aren't being violated. When I tell you that it is a disgrace on what's going on down there by Assistant State's Attorney Dave Gass, Assistant State's Attorney Brenda McCavitt, and Christine Alford Inc. When I tell you prosecutorial misconduct is running rampant when it comes to African Americans in the Peoria County Courthouse. We all know that predominantly the violence that's occurring in our city is happening by African American youth. But for 1 minute, you have to put yourself in their shoes and look at them and where they live and where they have to wake up to every day. If a child decides I am going to carry a gun because I believe that the other kids around me that have guns will shoot and kill me for no reason, I might not have the right to carry that gun, but I have the right to self-defense. How many of these murders that's happening in Peoria is really self-defense? But because it was a black person killed by another black person, it's automatic first-degree murder. It don't matter if there's video footage of the alleged victim mother stating on the body cam, and this is a real incident, stating that my son made that man kill him on body cam. And one of the only witnesses in the case, she describes her son motioning aggressively towards someone who is saying, I don't want to fight, let me leave. He is pointing a gun, but he's saying, I don't. If that was you, Mayor Reed Ali, and someone is threatening you, who's bigger than you, to beat on you, and you got your thing on, you like, hold on, back up. I'm not fighting today. I don't want no drama, because if they hit you, they could potentially kill you. And they advance towards you to act on them threats. You are well within your right to use lethal force to defend yourself. In this city right now, there are officers who are impeaching themselves in the Peoria County Courthouse to force convictions upon people who are just defending themselves. And I know I'm not going to say that's systemic racism, because a lot of times we get numb because there's so much violence and murder going on. But we cannot ignore the facts that you cannot get on the stand, swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, and lie to ensure a conviction. That's impeachment, and perjury charges are coming down on officers and citizens who get on the stand and impeach themselves when the evidence shows something different. And perjury charges will be filed with the Peoria Police Department and the state's attorney's office. But not only that, we are informing people down there on how to file these complaints yourself, how to contact the Illinois Officers Training Board, how to contact the Judicial Inquiry Board to file complaints when your rights are being violated. We can expect ridiculous legislation to keep coming down the aisle as long as there is big discrimination going on in our system. I yield my time. everything that Joyce Horant and Joyce Blumenstein about to say about the distillery tip. I back them 100%. This is the last thing the south side of Peoria needs, or Peoria as a whole needs, with all the other stuff that's going on in our city. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Joyce Harrod.
Well, I've never had time yielded to me, so this is a new experience. Thank you all very much for all of the consideration that's been given with our additions to the city manager, Attorney Hayes, and all of you. Because it's really about changing the narrative in the South Side regarding environmental justice. And as a result of our discussions, our group has made significant changes. We've dropped items. The city has stepped up and wrote additional text and we've come together on various parts of the TIF language that we had proposed. And specifically, I don't know, was our information passed out? I don't know, you've got the sheets, okay, great. So on page 15, we came to, that was complete agreement for quite a while. On page 17 and the first paragraph of page 40, we also came to agreement. And as I said, I'm sincerely thankful that we've come to these agreements, but I think there's much left to be added. And I'm understanding that there's this thought about using land use and zoning instead of putting it in the TIF. And if that is the way it proceeds, I hope that that will happen quickly, that we won't just wait until the next time those things are typically updated. But we, just in the essence of time here, or the saving of time, if there is a CO2 pipeline or any carbon infrastructure, whether it's TIF or anywhere, we need to be assured as citizens that we have a safety plan, that residents will not be exposed to a 15-minute CO2 standard of danger, and that we will have an emergency response plan that ensures that, and that the companies that are proposing this pay for it, that we are not left on the hook as taxpayers for a waste product that they want to move out of their building and potentially put people at risk. And I don't think we have to worry about BioUrja going out of business. The federal government is offering very lucrative tax incentives called 45Z for ethanol plants to be able to work with their farmers to be able to reduce their carbon index. 45Q is for sequestration. And they have the option to reduce their own carbon footprint for the other processes that they do in their plants. So, and we can never be assured that whether it's BioUrja or some other company will do the right thing when it comes to safety. We know that ADM sort of left their plant to run down, and we ended up with a 2-week fire. In fact, we have had, just last week in Louisiana, there was a CO2 leak. There was a 1/4 mile circumference around this leak that was not found by the company, but was notified to the authorities by a private citizen, and there was a 1/4 mile shelter in place. What is a 1/4 mile from the BioUrja plant, or going further south? How far is that? And there's a ethanol plant called One Earth in Gibson City that is proposing a pipeline and sequestration. They just acknowledged that there is risk and that they will be providing oxygen to breathing equipment to families that and houses that are within this 50,000 parts per million range if there was a rupture. Just think about that. What does that mean? How do you just give people oxygen and expect all that to work? And in the last that Doris was covering about the environmental impact statement, and we're very glad that the city put that in. It's a really a remarkable, good thing, but how you use the data is important. How do you evaluate that data? Who evaluates that data on a project? And we are suggesting that the impacted community members on the south side of Peoria who have borne the burdens of environmental injustice need to be part of a process, and that it has to be a known process, and that it needs to be developed in conjunction with them so that
thank you.
As a community, we can just work together on that. But again, thank you very much.
Next we have Ms. Joyce Blumenshine.
Good evening, Mayor Ali and members of the council and staff. Just a few comments regarding the distillery TIF, and just to give a few more details about the incidents that Joyce mentioned. On April 3rd, a few weeks ago in Louisiana, that pipeline leak for 2 hours was not notified to the company. Their 24/7 notification in their office 50 miles away had no alert. Their pipeline pressure alert that's supposed to protect everyone did not work. The local pump station closest to the residents and the only phone number that residents in the vicinity had to call when they saw something alarming, no one was there. So the local residents, as Ms. Harrent mentioned, called emergency, and the only way the pipeline company knew in their office 50 miles away was from the local responders. And it took 2 hours to shut that leak down. So there is a real danger from these pipelines. And as mentioned earlier, last month in March, a small company in Gibson City, granted that's a small town, but they promised in writing to the Illinois Commerce Commission in an effort to get approval for their CO2 pipeline application that they would supply oxygen and breathing apparatus to homeowners within what they had modeled as a risk. Now, we know with the Satarsha incident years ago, 2020, that the modeling did not show that community at risk, and the plume spread there. 200 people evacuated, 45 to ERs. We have here in Peoria a situation that now will rest on each of your shoulders and the shoulders of all city council members for the 23 years of this TIF. And that is, you will be the front line, the final deciders on whether or not any application for TIF money for the Peoria for any CO2 pipeline would be approved. So we are here tonight, I'm here tonight to ask you, please keep that in mind. It is a serious responsibility, but we think that you can't ask every resident of the 61605 within a danger zone to take care of teaching their kids, their grandkids, the neighbors' kids, the kids in the playground. Hey, get into the house in 3 minutes and put on this oxygen mask. Let's be real. I do want to extend sincere appreciation and thanks to Administrator Urich, Mr. Hayes, all the city staff who were so very open and receptive, congenial, in our very positive meetings. And that made a world of difference. To be able to have discussions and the inclusion of language is so very greatly appreciated. Of course, we as the public are asking for more. We're asking that the Joint Commission on Equity and the recommendations for the South Side, for the future of every resident there, to correct the inequities of the past and the discrimination that's continued, and that all considerations be made for the well-being and the safety and decisions moving forward. Number one, to give a better future and safer and healthier future to the residents of the South Side. Thank you very much.
Our last speaker is Gregory Barta. Mr. Barta?
My name is Gregory Barta. I'm a resident of Peoria, 3526 West Grimson Avenue. I don't live on the south side, but I have friends that live there. I'm here to support the community group recommended additions. I think words make a difference, especially a lawyer here will tell you how things are worded makes a big difference when something is implemented. And for instance, the original wording said encourage environmental responsible industrial development. Well, the community group would like that word encourage to require. Because if you don't require something, they don't have to do it when you say encourage. So I think there's important wording changes that will help ensure justice and environmental justice for the citizens of Peoria and the South Side. Thank you.
Welcome. Madam Clerk?
We are at executive session and then adjournment.
I would like to invite a motion to adjourn and to convene in closed session immediately following adjournment of the City Council meeting pursuant to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2C11 to discuss pending and potential litigation and pursuant to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2C21 for approval by the body of closed session minutes. Moved by Councilman Allen, seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Please cast your ballots. Adjourn. Thank you for your service.